see an ever-changing news and computer terminology. Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore's keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore's keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore's keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore's keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 130 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our first batch of games from issue 52 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were confused by Clubhouse Sports, bewildered by Baal, and genuinely hated hate. This week, we conclude our look at the games in August 1989, along with what was lighting up our TV and cinema screens that month. Graham, what did we have to look forward to round out those rosy summer nights?
In this fun-packed episode where we set out to prove once and for all that something can indeed look like a yogurt and wobble like a jelly, we enter the multi-dimensional world of cueless ball sports and take our chances on some low-resolution blundering fluke shots in 3D pool, climb into our whitest motocross leathers, slip on our helmets, which sounds more painful than it actually is, and trundle across some muddy courses in the control-impinged Super Scramble Simulator, and time travel back to when biplanes and dreary-coloured Spectrum games were mutually compatible as we dogfight our own sense of horror with Deep Strike. It turns out that some kinds of yogurt are already like jelly. In fact, it's a confusing world, and we haven't even reached what on earth skier is yet. Anyway, after all that malarkey, we climb in even more biplanes, as well as other types, and once again take the skies to flit around like wasps in the erratic dogfighting crazy world of Arcade Flight Simulator, before finally grabbing our brown fedora, whip, pistol, and dynamite and heading into the super daring and tomb-filled world of Rick Dangerous. 20%. What a magic percentage. Does that mean at least 80% of these games are good or bad? Or does it mean 20% are good or bad? Were 6 out of 7 of Snow White's dwarfs unhappy? You'll have to listen to the episode to find out.
Wow, some home life, huh?
Hey, pig.
And it goes on like that.
Yeah, definitely needed some injection of science fiction, I feel, for this lot.
Yeah, it's just a bit. Well, there is some, I suppose, but...
Oh, there is some, yeah. It's only 5 games again. The games are getting thin on the ground, like my hair, thin on the ground.
It's like the developers of the C64 games that are any good at this point.
Everyone's down in the Ocean's dungeon shouting like, is anyone here? And it's just echo.
The room was full of C64 game developers, some of whom were very old. If you want to support us and support this ongoing quest to play all these games, then you can do that. You can do that financially if you want to go over to patreon.com/Zap to the Past. You can join us on Discord. You get the episodes, you can get all the back episodes. They're all on there now. That's always good because they weren't always on there. But now you get every single episode we've ever released is all on Patreon. And
all
ad-free.
All ad-free. And you get them on the Friday night instead of the Monday morning. So that's cool.
When was the last time you tried a nice juicy steak? And things like that. They interrupt the flow of the podcast. But not if you're on the old Patreon, they don't.
Absolutely. We could be a lot worse. We could put ads in all kinds of places with those timings.
Yes, we could.
We have control. Yes. Control we really shouldn't have, if you've ever met us.
We're earning pence, literally pence, from the revenue.
Absolutely. They're putting my cockroach through cockroach college.
At this rate, we'll be able to afford a whole Mars bar.
Ooh, steady on. Half each.
Half each.
Half a Mars bar is my limit. Yeah, so if you want to do that, you can do that. You can buy us a Ko-fi at kofi.com/Zap to the Past, whatever it is. Or you can just tweet at us or join in the fun, whatever. It's up to you. There you go. Yeah, so we've got 5 more games, and that rounds out August. Do you know there's only 4 months left of 989?
I know. I was thinking about that, actually. I mean, it's a bit crazy. It's gone by quite fast.
Yeah, there's only 8
The good
more
games
episodes.
have gone by even quicker.
They're like,
Blink till you miss them.
Yeah. Unlike the bad games, which have gone...
They've kind of jerked.
Hey!
Hey! Ooh, hey!
They're in,
you! Hey!
They're in the back of Test Drive 2's car. Yeah, there we go. But we may still have some. I think we've got a couple of good ones coming up for September. But
we have. By the way, this week, it might not have been this week, but I received a copy this week of the Family Bitmap Books book, From Ants to Zombies, 6 Decades of Video Game Horror. It's very, very, very good indeed. And I mention it because it's got our favourite game in it from the last few weeks. Is in
Project
there.
Firestar.
Yep.
I've seemed to be seeing that everywhere at the moment.
I know, I saw is it Bastich had done something with it as well? And
I've never heard of that game before we played it, and suddenly I've seen it everywhere. It's probably because I tweeted about it, didn't I? So it's probably just popping up.
But it's like if you go looking at cars, you go look at car shopping if you ever do that. And then you think, that's quite a nice red car. And then all you ever see then is the same red car every why? I didn't notice that before. Why are there so many of them? And it's just a thing.
It's the way your brain works. Yeah.
Have you been tuning into any other podcasts this past week, by the way? Of course, I know you listen to ours all the time, but other than that?
I do listen to ours.
On your podcast playlist?
Kane and Rinse. I've been listening to a load of Kane and Rinse recently. They're good. I've been sort of... Because I've only recently properly discovered them, and I'm sort of, they've got like 10 years worth of podcasts. So I'm working my way through the sort of highlights and the games I want to listen to about them.
A reason I mention all of this is because I've been listening to I was listening to a podcast that I like called Nostalgia Goggles. I definitely recommend you go and check it out. Mm-hmm. It's on all the usual places. But they were having a bit of a debate on that about what people call their TV remotes, and it made me think: what do you call your TV remote? Is it just remote? Do you call it by it's like a name? Oh, Ted. Where's Ted?
Clicky.
Clicky, the remote. You call yours Clicky?
No, because
ours is normally a zapper. Ours is a remote usually, but it could be a zapper, a doobry from the doobry. Well, pass me the doodah
on the left hand side.
Or the zapper. Sometimes it's the zapper. Yeah, pass me the doodah on the left hand side. I'm sure there's a song in there. And then also, but then it was what do you call game controllers? Because the big debate from them was that some people called the TV remote their controller. And I'm like, no, that's crossing the streams. I don't cross that stream. The game controller's a controller. So
I don't know. Yeah, I call the game controller a controller and a remote the remote. I am full of imagination.
So when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, this is all new territory for me because I'm a recent purchaser of a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Do you call it a controller on that, or do you call it the Joy-Con?
It's the Joy-Con.
You've never called anything else a Joy-Con?
No,
Why
I haven't,
is it that?
Because nothing's ever been called a Joy-Con before. That's its name. I call it by its name.
Then every controller you have as a game controller is a Joy-Con.
Well, it depends how you use them. But
exactly, that's my point. Are they not all Joy-Cons?
It depends. If it's those two things specifically, yeah, I do refer to them as the Joy-Con. But if it's the Pro Controller or another third-party controller, I'll say the controller. But those two things, I do call the Joy-Cons.
Okay, Joy-Con it is. Okay, fair enough. Just wondered what you might call them.
Because then people don't get confused. I'm like, where's the controller? And they go, it's here. Oh, not that one, the split one. The red and blue one. The one that's not, the Joy-Con.
Is it a known term in your house, the Joy-Con? Would your partner know what you meant if you said, pass me the Joy-Con on the left-hand side?
No, probably not. Probably not. But usually I'm talking to myself. Go, where's the bloody Joy-Con?
Well, I suppose you would know what that meant. I mean,
plugged
that's
onto
fair.
the Switch.
That's
absolutely.
Fair.
So yeah,
I didn't know they were called Joy-Cons, and I'm not very comfortable with it. It's not sitting right with me. I can't figure it out.
If you want the weirdness, if you want the middle ground between the controller and the remote, then we had that 2 generations back with the Wiimote.
Yes, a Wiimote. I was trying to think what that was called. It wasn't called the pointy stick as I imagined.
No, it was the Wiimote.
The Wiimote. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I just wondered what you call them. So it's a Wiimote. Yeah, they have to do that, don't they? Be different. I just call it the old controller. Possibly the Xbox controller. What's the most recent Xbox controller called? Is that more curiosity?
Just
is it still controller? Is it not called the Xbox Power Sensor or something?
No,
they tend to do that with them.
I think the only Xbox pad that they've ever had a name for was the Duke.
The Duke K1, the big guy.
The big, that was the very first original Xbox controller that came with the original Xbox. It was massive, and they called it the Duke. After John Wayne, as far as I'm aware.
John Wayne, yeah, because he was a massive controller.
You can buy wireless ones now of them for the Xbox One. The original,
they were big.
The original Duke controller back.
I mean, the thing is that if you get mad with your controller, you can, you throw it around. You don't want to do one of them. You probably kill someone. They're dangerous. They're well big.
You knock your house down.
Take a wall out. Just need that. Can you move that? Thinking of remodeling that wall over there. Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's, I think, way bigger than I thought. Yeah.
Thank you, Duke.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
All right. Shall we get on with some games?
Yes.
Otherwise, people are going to have turned off by now.
Yes. Let's get on with some games. Yeah. Let's do that.
They are, because they are games that are worth getting on with.
Well, yeah, we're trying to delay the inevitable there, but
absolutely,
we've got to get on with them.
You'll thank us for this preamble in about an hour's time.
You will. It's certainly more interesting than the first game.
Yeah, right. Let's get into that, shall we? Let's get into that first game. We saw the crap bit some time back.
And that was the big clue.
That was the big clue. This is 3D pool. Tumbleweeds come past. Our listeners like, that's your best game? Yeah, sorry. 3D pool, £9.99. And you know that quality might be taking a bit of a hit when the second highest scoring game of the month is 74%, and it's a 3D pool game. So sorry about that. Anyway, this is 3D Pool from Firebird. Like I said, we saw the crap vert for this the other week. The strange floating teenager in the background.
Yes, now we know why he was there. Distraction.
Absolutely. This is copyright Microprose software. Weird. Developed by Aardvark Software and created by Orlando M. Pilchard.
Orlando Pilchard.
Or, as he's otherwise known, Nick Pelling.
Ah, so pseudonyms.
Who we've seen before on Bangkok Nights, Firetrack, and Frack.
Yeah, he's a good programmer guy, but why did he change his name?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Anyway, this is certainly not the first pool game we've seen of the C64. We've had to endure the dubious delights of snooker and pool about 4 times. The game that it's like something wouldn't flush. It won't go. It won't go. Not so long back, we had Rackham from Accolade. And even last week, we had Crazy Pool in Clubhouse Games. Crazy Pool. But this is the first time that someone has tried to give us a game of pool in full-on 3D.
Wow. The best D.
Best D. After a particularly dull loading screen, we are instantly thrown into a tournament starting at the quarterfinals. It's very weird. It just starts. You're like, you're in the quarterfinals. Like, all right.
No pressure. Get on with it. Learn and go.
Yeah, but then we get the title screen, which seems an odd way to go about this.
Everything's odd.
It's like someone gives you a saucer and then a tea, or the tea, then a cup.
Ow! Oh,
here's your cup. I would have liked that first.
That's the usual way.
Yeah. We've got some options to change from joystick to keyboard control, what type of game to play, from the aforementioned tournament, which I really want you to do, to a 2-players game, to a demo mode where you can choose the players to watch play, to a practice, and finally to a trick shot mode where you can also edit the 15 trick shots available and make your own if you so wish.
Yeah.
The main meat of the game is that tournament mode, and all of the modes are similar, so I'm just going to focus on that. It's pool. It's 3D pool. Well. I mean, what else can you say? You can generate new pairings for each game before you start, and I'm not going to go through the character people because you end up playing some guy that I've never heard of, and I don't care. Pressing
names
the space
like Dodgy Derek and Bendy Ben and Freaky McGee and
Flippy Fred and Pokey Pete. Pressing the space bar on the title screen starts whichever mode you have chosen. The game starts with you standing at the top of the table looking down towards the 15... No, not 15 reds. What am I about? I've gone all snooker.
No, you've snookered yourself.
Well, it's the 15... Well, they are red, actually. Yeah, it's 15 reds at the bottom because they are red, aren't they?
It's red and yellow, isn't there?
Yeah, well, they're not yellow. They're red and black, dithering.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the visuals are in medium res. The table is a big rectangle of green with black holes for pockets in the usual 6 places. It's a pool table. There are no cushions, but they do exist. They're just invisible. The rest of the world is a black and red lined floor and a black and white wall, with the base of the table being red and green checks, like dithering. It ain't the prettiest use of colours I've ever seen, I have to say. No, somebody needed a colour theory. Essentially, it's like playing pool in Driller. That's what this reminded me of.
Sold to the man at the back.
Absolutely. Anyway, the first thing you need to do is place the cue ball in the shaded D area. You do this by holding down the fire button and then moving the cue ball. Once you are happy with the position, you double tap the joystick and start the game. Controls are simple enough. Instead of the usual line of aiming curves you normally get in these games, so you get a line usually coming out from the cue ball. You rotate the world around the cue ball, and the direction you're facing is where you hit it. It's 3D, it's that. So you just aim where you're looking, basically. Left and right rotate the view horizontally, and up and down do it vertically. At the top of the screen is the name of the person playing, a white ball with a cross on it, and a power bar. The cross is for spin, and you alter this in 2 ways. Moving the view up puts backspin on the ball, and moving the view down puts topspin on it. I don't like this control method. Holding down the fire and moving the joystick left or right puts left or right spin on the ball, whilst up and down with the fire button held down increases or decreases the power bar. Once you've lined up your shot, happy with your spin and happy with your power, you just double tap to fire to take it, and that's it really. And this is where the problems start really. So we've got a full 3D view of the table that we can rotate around, which is nice, I guess. The issue mainly comes with the low resolution of the C64, and trying to finally aim anything in a 3D space over distance just doesn't work. It just does not work. Time and time again, I would aim my shot, And I found the best way to do it was from the top-down view, as that seemed to get the best view of the table before lowering the view to avoid the tremendous amount of backspin you can generate. I took a shot, I put so much backspin in it, it moved forward about 2 inches and span backwards. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's loads of backspin. It's ridiculous.
Went through time.
Yeah. So I was quite sure I was aiming at the red. It looked like that. I tapped the fire button twice and I watched my ball veer off, either not hit where I was aiming, hit another ball on the way, which I was sure was in no way going to it, or just missed my ball completely that I was aiming at. It's just you can't do it. The resolution's not fine enough. So this is a rather large problem for a pool game where you cannot be certain of just where you're aiming, as it makes the game far too random to be very enjoyable. There are other issues too. I don't like the back and top spin I linked to your view. It seems an odd choice.
Stupid. Really stupid.
Yeah, and a symptom of trying to make it so that everything is accessible before you double tap to take the shot. So I get what they were going for, but I don't think it worked. And I much preferred a sort of system where, normal, do your aim, tap fire, do your spin, tap fire, do your power, tap fire, done. It works. There's a reason why that works.
Yep.
The issue here is that as you move the view, the balls tend to wobble and move position, and can sometimes look like they're even floating in the pockets. Crazy.
Yeah, it ain't good.
No. So you're never really sure where they are. And this is true for both vertical and horizontal movement around the table. The C64 simply does not have a high enough resolution to pull this off convincingly or reliably to ensure that you can play a decent game of pool. Another thing is that the computer player can take ages to take their shot. So you can find yourself looking at the screen and the message,
So stupid.
At the top for quite some time. Just sat there waiting. Alongside that point, when the computer is taking the shot, you can now no longer move the view. So you can end up with a bit where the white ball's at one end, you're aiming sort of laterally across the table, not down it, but sort of across it. You take a shot, your ball ends up there. You can only see half the table because of the 3D view, and then you're stuck. Yep. The computer player takes a shot off the screen. You have no idea what's going on. Yep. None. It's a bit stupid. At one point, I had a black ball game and I missed, and the black ball rolled out of view. And just had no idea once they took the shot what was going on with the black ball. I had no idea. They could have potted it. They could have not. I have no idea. Any game, I don't know why the view doesn't move to where the computer is aiming. Would have seemed a sensible thing. Because it might have then given you a sort of idea of that's how I need to aim it. No.
Yeah.
All told, I guess it's an admirable attempt to take the pool sim into 3D. But unfortunately, as we've said with a lot of 3D games in the C64, it's low resolution and it's not great handling the 3D at the best time, simply is not up to the job. And we'll really have to wait for the 16-bit machines where this becomes a far more viable proposition. And I don't know what this is like on the 16-bit. I'm thinking of Jimmy White at the Archie McLean one, which came along and went, this is how you do 3D snooker and pool.
It did.
He came along and went, this is how you do fighting games. This is how you do pool.
Yeah.
Archie McLean just knows what he's doing. So I guess fair play for trying this. It's a bit slow and jerky, and it's just a symptom of the C64. And it was on a hiding to nothing, this really, because you can't zoom in far enough either. You can zoom out quite far, but you can't zoom in far enough to get enough of a view. So unfortunately, this one it's missed and gone in off, and you're not getting that white ball back. So I wouldn't. You've wasted your 20p down the pub, or your 50p now, whatever it is, or your quid.
Pound
now, isn't it? Yeah, pound. God, inflation, man. So no, I didn't like this. Slow, boring, and uncontrollable, and you can't aim where you need to aim. Not a good way for a pool game to be reviewed.
No, it's not.
Anyway, there you go. What did you think?
Well, it was hardly stunningly realistic, true-to-life 3D pool simulation, was it? Which is what it said it was. Bloody liars. You liars. Your bums are on fire, you're lying that much. Who'd want to pay... £10 buys you a lot of actual pool games for real.
10 games?
Which is, I can tell you, the best 3D pool you're going to get. That is a stunningly realistic, true-to-life 3D pool simulation. Go and play it for real in a pub. It's way better. Or in a club. A clever notion hampered by poor visuals and the weird way it limits the viewport of the player in every way that it can. It fights you, this game.
Yeah.
It's like playing against the player, and the computer player is actually hitting you on the head with a large wooden implement every time you move. Because it's just, you can't move with finesse, so it just judders and jerks around. It's no fun, that. I get the idea of it. Like you said, exactly. There's mileage in this kind of thing. Jimmy White's Whirlwind Snooker on the Amiga proved it, hands down. So we know that the notion of the 3D view of pool and snooker works if it's done correctly. Not here, though. It's missing key things. The ability to aim the ball with a cue. A cue would have been useful, wouldn't it? So you can actually sort of see what you're doing. Yeah, that would have given you the sense of direction that you were hitting the ball when you've got a giant pointy stick that points in the direction that you're hitting the ball. That's a bit of a giveaway, really, what that's for.
Mm-hmm.
The pool table is kind of necessarily reduced to its bare essentials of the table. So it's kind of just a green block with corner-shaped blocks that sort of are holes, I guess.
Yeah.
And when you move around, like I said, it sort of jerks and judders and stammers around. The resolution's also working against it, so it's just a blocky, massive weirdness that there's no way you're going to ever be able to hit this with any kind of, fidelity. It's how I actually play pool. I just hit the ball and hope that something goes in. And that's pretty much what I was doing here. So it's devoid of atmosphere as well, because it's jerky, and so it's like Driller without the music. If you take the music off Driller and just have it in silence, it's pretty boring.
Yep.
So it's not a very... However great and clever the 3D coding is, and maybe it is really clever the way they've done it, I don't doubt that. There's probably some really cleverness in there. But it's not clever to make a crap game. Clever is to make a clever game with 3D. You've made a really bad one. And the game with very simple rules. Hit the balls, put them in the holes, job done. So now, and then the sound effects, well, what were they now? Plus, like you said, that CPU player. I mean, come on, what is he, Bobby McSlow? Play the bloody game. Yeah, it's like, that's quite difficult, that. It's not, though, is it? I did it in seconds. Well, not seconds, minutes, when I was juddering around. And also, I noticed that when they do finally take the shot, they very rarely miss. So, whatever they're aiming to do. Anyway, I didn't try any of the other variants, the trick shots. What's the point? What's the point in doing a trick shot on a game where you can't actually play the actual game? So a trick shot's pointless.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You can't aim with anything in this. This should have stayed on the Amiga or the other versions. The 16-bit versions of this aren't very good either, I have to say. They're quite blocky. Not blocky, sorry. They're quite jerky. So it's not great. It's not great on any platform. And by the way, if you really want the real horror experience, go look at the Spectrum version, and then you'll never be the same again. But, do that. It's you can play any version of Pool you like as long as everything's green. Anyway, it ain't good. All the versions I checked were all slow. It ain't good. So you won't enjoy the Spectrum or the Amstrad version of that, nor would you enjoy the 64 version. So no, it's just £10 is a lot of money. Go and play real pool. It's much better. You can use actual, pokey sticks and everything. Way better. I didn't enjoy it. Why would I enjoy it? So rubbish.
No, that Spectrum version is
too green. I'm not going to say it's rubbish. What I'm going to say is this is but it's just not something the 64 is going to ever be able to do very well anyway. And it's not a very good version of that, so it's just not. It's not any fun for £10. No. Move on.
Move along. That's the frame done. Let's move along and see if anything better comes along with our next game. And Graham, that's over to you to tell us all about SSS. Super Scramble Simulator.
Super Scramble. Wow. It's the simulator of all simulators. £9.99. What's going on? It's got simulator in the title. 38%. What? What's going on? This is Sean Southern coding. He's a good coder. Graphics are Andrew Morris. He's a good graphics. Sean Southern did the music. What's going on? Wait a minute. It's published by bloody Gremlin Graphics. That's why it's £10. And that's why it's crap. Anyway. So I'll go through a little bit of the blurb. The scenario for this: take on the ultimate challenge of motorbike scrambling. No, I used to quite like watching the old scrambling motorbikes on things like Kickstart, the TV show. And let's not be beat around the bush. This is better res Kickstart, but not as good as Kickstart. But we'll come to that. Anyway, the real life simulator, okay, takes you over 15 grueling terrains featuring 1 to 2 gradient hills, which seems oddly specific. We're going to go into hill gradients. Okay, all right. I think people, your average kid's not going to go 1 to 2 gradient. I was expecting more of a 1 to 7. Does it matter? Let's just put hills, damn it. You don't need to put the bloody ratio in there. Streams, water obstacles, logs, cars, and lorries. Control your accelerating, braking, and gear changing. Avoid stalling it as you race against the clock. A real must for all budding Motor X enthusiasts. I'm just going to say this right now. A real must for budding Motor X or cross motocross enthusiasts, is to actually go and do motocross. Go and do it. Don't do this. Never do this. The game has 15 courses divided into 5 sets of 3. That's the closest you're ever going to get to them, me saying it, but that's where they are. There are 3 sets of mud courses and 2 sets of concrete courses. Within a set, the courses can be played in any order, but the whole set must be completed before progressing to the next set. Failure to complete the course within the time limit ends the game. Each course must be completed in the fastest possible time for a maximum score. Good luck with that. Time penalties are incurred for failing, which you will, if you're me, is pretty much how you go by the whole race, to negotiate an obstacle correctly or for straying off the course, crashing or stalling the bike. Bonus points are given at the end of each course for the time remaining. On the first 2 sets of courses, you get 3 attempts at each obstacle, after which you are placed further down the course and suffer a large time penalty. On the 3rd and 4th sets, you get 4 attempts. On the last set, you must try 7 times. Are we all clear? Good.
Yes.
So this is, it's quite an unusual thing, this, actually. Really, because it's got such an unusual pedigree behind it, and it's catastrophically awful. So it's on a simulator tip, I get it, but it's a full price game from Gremlin. So the question really is, should this ever have been full price? I don't think so. Why was this not put out on Codemasters, is it? Which is Sean Southern's normal remit, is it? Is that where he normally has his games put out, is it? Or whichever label it is.
Mastertronic normally, in it? But Mastertronic are long gone, or it's Virgin Mastertronic by this point,
so I don't quite know how this has come to be. There's probably some sad
it's on the
and sorry
Atari
tale
ST
about
and stuff, so I'm wondering if it's just a downport.
Might just be a downport. Anyway, it's got weird music in this, really. Quite busy. Colourful enough, I suppose, with the title screen. You can select from 1 to 6 players. Enter your name, then select a course. You've got A, B, C, off-road, 1, 2, 3, and you've got different times you can change to 2 minutes, 2 minutes 30, and then 2 minutes 20, which seems oddly out of sequence. When you start, the game window is actually technically split into 3 in the actual game itself. The top sort of, I guess, I wouldn't say it was third, but we'll just call it the top third because it's just the way the screen splits. So the top chunk of the screen is your motorbike, and your scrambling is where it all occurs. Now, the graphics in that bit are pretty good, actually, for what it is. It's like a zoomed-in Kickstart, but with better graphics. So the graphics, the guy looks a bit like Evel Knievel / Eddie Kidd. He's all in white, kit out on his sort of Tron-coloured, inspired grey bike. But it does look the part. It looks like a really good, quite nicely shaded and well-animated motorbike rider. The terrain you're riding across scrolls across, and that's all bumpy, and it's scrambling. So it's not like it's a fast race, and it's not like an obstacle course in the same sort of vein as Kickstart. It kind of is like Kickstart, but it's a bit more, simulatory, a bit more bumpy and stuff. Got to really think about what gear you're in and how fast you're going and whether your wheels up in the air and things like that. So when you're not controlling that bit, the bit under that is actually an overhead view during the game, where you can sort of see the top down. Now, it kind of breaks your brain a bit because you've got a side view, a top view, and then you're looking over the handlebars at the bottom. Now, if that's designed to scramble your brains, I don't know what is.
Yeah, like Sanction.
It is, and then the middle section will also change into a messaging system for when you fall off your bike, which you'll see a lot, if you're me.
Yeah, same here.
Underneath that, there is a handlebars of the bike, I want to say. On the left-hand side is your time. On the right-hand side is your score, where your brakes would be. And then there's your kind of speedometer and your revs counter that exists. And then there's a little series of lights, which I think are where the sort of, ready, set, go kind of thing happens. That kind of thing. Might be power, might be the gear in, actually. Might be, I don't know. So and the idea is obviously, as I've already said, to get through these courses, now that's how you do it. So you've got those main windows. Like I said, the graphics are nice. All looks quite good. At this point, you're thinking, okay, if this is like Kickstart, I could go with it because this is quite nice look and feel. I could get behind it. Then the controls step in, and these feel like they work against you quite badly. So you accelerate with a push to the right or front wheel down if you're airborne. Left decelerates or lowers your front wheel if you're airborne. Up is left and down is right, just to make it very clear.
What?
To change gear is up on the joystick with the fire button pressed. Down is drop a gear. Left is lift rear wheel. Right is a wheelie. You got all that?
It sounds like Monty Burns doing the, if I tap my head, not once, not twice, but thrice.
Those are the actual
down,
controls.
And down is left. Left is down.
So up is left, right is speed up, fire and up and down is change gear, essentially. But they also have other things they do, which just confused the hell out of me. Now, so the net result of all of this confusion was, really, for me, it was just a kind of a fall off the bike simulator. This is my progress in the game. Too fast, fell off. Too fast, fell off. 6-point penalty, 6-second penalty for all these. Too slow, you stalled the bike. Too slow, you stalled the bike. I was like, all right. Too fast, you fell off. Front wheel too high. Back wheel too low. Too fast. Too slow. And I ran out of time because I'd actually penaltied myself out of the competition. I could not get this game I could not get the motorbike to run for any longer than maybe a second before something catastrophic happened. And when it stops the game, it stops in its tracks. You get put back on the track and everything else, and you get put further down. It didn't help me. I could not get to grips with these controls. I felt like I did when we were doing that game where we was punching those things with the stick. You remember when you had to turn the control around? The recent one we played, the Grand Monster Slam game. Oh. When you had to smack those bellons with the stick, and then in order to go left and right, you had to rotate the joystick around, and just faffy, needless controls. Why in this game is it not just right to speed up, left to slow down, up to go up? Why does it have this weird control? Now, I get it, it's because they're trying to make it more simulatory, but that doesn't make it more simulating of a motorbike.
Nope.
Because motorbikes aren't controlled in that way. Yeah, I get that there's gears, and that is, a fire button press or something like that, but I can't help but think, knowing that we've recently played Citadel and that game had really clever controls on one joystick, that this is something of a controlling catastrophe. And what surprised me most of all is who did it. Because Sean Southern is a very competent, very clever coder. We've seen that many times in many of his games. I mean, they're genuinely brilliant. This feels like a real step back. This feels like a found in the cupboard. This didn't have the polish. I mean, graphically and in code-wise, I suppose what you can say is it was all very slick. But those controls are a terrible thing, and I could not get to grips with them. And I would rather, all said and done, play Kickstart or Kickstart 2, both of which I could control, and both of which I enjoyed more than this, and both of which are cheaper.
Yeah.
So it's a pity that this isn't really a better graphic version of Kickstart, because that would have been actually pretty good if they'd have done that, and I could have got behind that. But it's not that. It's a kind of weird look and feel. It's good to look at, horrible to control. I don't know, nice sprites. I say all the graphics, none of that there. Code base, probably good, but it controls like a pig, and that ain't a good thing. So, I don't know. I found this, a game like this where controls are so stupid and the difficulty is set to you, I can't find my way into it. I just kind of fall off a lot. And in the end, I followed Lord Humongous's advice once, and I walked away.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. It's Trials, isn't it? It's an early version of Trials for the C64, if you remember that. Trials.
Yeah, with terrible controls.
Yeah, it is. Or, well, it's Trials. Or what happens when you try to sim up Kickstart for some reason? I don't understand. Why would you do that? I can see what this is going for. And, way down the line, Trials is going to make this hugely popular. But the humble joystick is just not cut out for the level of control this is asking of you. It's ridiculous. I got no problem with the way it looks or anything. It's a bit brown, all told. But I suppose it's mud, so it's going to be. The music and sounds, they're not that great, though. But I feel it just tries to do too much, like you said, and it's too unwieldy to control. It's just all over the place. They've got no indication of speed that I'm aware of. There's some dials down the bottom that might be doing some stuff, but who knows? I'm not sure why you need to be flipping up and down gears, trying to stay on the course with a top-down view as well. Because that's the other thing, isn't it? When you're driving along, you've got to be moving up and down while speeding up left and right, and then moving your gears up and down. It's like,
I don't get it.
There's too much. It's too much.
Yep.
It gets too much. Frustration sets in. You got too many things to remember how to access on the joystick, along with a look at the main screen and the top-down view, and keep an eye on your speed. You've got to have about 4 eyes, and you need an extra joystick. There's a reason why Trials comes along on an Xbox 360 pad, 2 joysticks, numerous buttons, two
triggers,
triggers, always, because that's what this game requires. That's what they're asking of you. And they're trying to manually put it into 8 directions and 1 fire button. Like, don't work. Can't do it.
Nope.
So it's an interesting attempt, I guess, and one way down the line it will reap rewards. But for what this is and what you can control it with, it needed a much less convoluted control system to work properly. And because it hasn't got that, it's ultimately almost barely playable.
Yeah,
it's barely playable. This I found. I'm not. Did I finish a course? I might have finished the very, very, very first one.
Couldn't get anywhere.
But as soon as it, I think there was on the second one, there's tires you have to jump onto, and it was just like blah blah.
Yeah, it's never going to happen for me, that.
It's like, what's going on? I can control Kickstart. And like you said, Kickstart 2 pisses on this.
I'd rather play that.
Great height.
Yeah, it does. And it's 2-player.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 6-player, but it's not. Is it split screen? I didn't try it, actually. I meant
to
try
this?
it.
I don't think it's split screen, no, because you do...
So it's one at a time. It's Trials, isn't it? So you just do one at a time. How boring would that be, waiting your turn for that?
Yeah.
Be there for hours. If it was me, you'd be like, I forgot to get off.
Yeah. So another sports game comes along and is not suited to the machine. That's 2 for 2.
Mm-hmm. 2 for 2.
At the start of this one. Let's see what our next game brings along. If it's 3 for 3, or hopefully it might be some good. This is Deep Strike. This is Deep Strike, and it's £1.99. Well, it got 61%. Once again, the archives of Durell have been raided as the third game from the Phantom Zone rears its head behind Turbo Esprit and Saboteur 2. I'm guessing this is Ursa, because Turbo Esprit was none. Oh no, Saboteur 2 would have been Ursa, wouldn't it? So I'm guessing this must be General Zod.
It's not kidding.
So yeah, this is another encore budget re-release from the Durell catalogue. So I had a bit of a dig in this because we've been speaking about this, and it seems that Elite did actually buy the Durell brand in 1987.
Right.
So they bought them.
They didn't have to release these, though.
No, you've heard of Elite.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, remember his business plan.
Weirdly, Durell actually are still going. They carried on, but went into financial software and services, and are still going to this day.
Oh, how weird is that?
I know, it's strange, isn't it? But there you go, that's Derailist. So they just went, that's, we hear about programs and stuff getting out of games. There's an entire company. That's what happened here.
Yes, it is.
So this explains this wave of titles we've seen over recent weeks. So anyway, Deep Strike.
Okay.
Created by Nick Wilson, originally in 1986. This got music from Rob Hubbard.
It has.
Yeah. The story in Deep Strike is thus. You are in control of a World War fighter. Your job is to protect and guide a flight of 4 bombers to take out an enemy fuel dump. That's it. I'm just going to say this at the beginning. It began life on the Spectrum, like all these recent releases seem to, and it shows throughout. There's a Spectrum-style loading screen showing some black and red biplanes in lovely Spectrum-style high-res. And when the game loads, the options are all keyboard-based. Always another sign of where this came from. No thought to actually put this, onto a C64 that has a joystick port as standard. 2 of them. When the game loads, we get the name Deep Strike in single colour text at the top and a command to press any key to continue. Not sure why this is here. That's all it does is takes us to the title screen.
Stupid.
Ridiculous. Here we agree with some keyboard options. 0 to start the game, which is an odd one because it's at the other end of the keyboard.
Weird.
1 to change the difficulty from easy, medium or hard, and 2 to see the high scores. We also get Hubbard's rendition of the tune from 1941, which is an odd choice seeing as the game is set in World War I, not World War II.
Shh.
It's like, you got the wrong war, Rob.
Yeah, it's wrong music.
Oh, and despite the fact you want to, this tune cannot be turned off.
You can't be stopped.
It can't be stopped. This is the Everything's All Right tune. It can't be
it's
stopped.
The Homer's doorbell. It's another Homer's doorbell.
Anyway, press 0 to start the game and the Spectre emulation starts. We are seated in our fighter plane with the dashboard in front of us at the bottom of the screen. This gives us our score, high score, fuel gauge, a compass, which you need to always keep pointed up, which compasses do. That's the nature of a compass. Yeah. It's the background. It's the background that rotates on a compass.
Yeah. Stupid.
Anyway, compass always point up. 2 propeller blades, 1 blue and 1 green. Your blue, I think, is your health, and the green is the health of the bomber that you're accompanying at the time. Oh, it might be the other way around. An indicator of how much ammo you have left, and how many bombs and the number of lives, denoted by little biplanes in a sort of little sort of window thing. Above this, taking up most of the screen, but not all of it, is the game window. This is the usual 3D flying screen with blue at the top and green at the bottom. And the game starts, there's darker blue, or it's lighter blue at the top. It's got a weird sort of like...
It's got a weird palette, hasn't it? This
thing. Very odd.
Almost Spectrum-esque, one might say.
One might. Above this, so this is the usual 3D flying screen, as I said. When the game starts, we see a black runway ahead of us, which we take off from automatically. Red biplanes and enemy balloons, enemy sort of blimps, whatever, are in the sky. And as we take off, a black biplane flies from back behind us and in front of us. This is one of the bombers for you to protect. So essentially, you can climb or dive, bank left or right, and you need to shoot all the red enemies and protect your bombers. That's it. Pressing M brings up the most pointless map in existence because it's just...
It is really pointless.
It's 16 squares. You're in the bottom one, and the fuel dump is directly above you in the top one. And you just got to go north. As it says, just keep going straight. This map has no... Because if you go left or right, you're instantly killed by the most, by anti-aircraft fire. It tells you this. So what's the point of a map? You need to be careful with your ammo, as you can easily run out. And if you run out, you can't shoot anymore. So I get it. That may be realistic, but it don't make for a good, fun game experience, I have to say. And you need to keep your bombers alive to drop bombs on the run at the end. If you stray off course, like I said, and the arrow on the compass turns, you or your bomber will be hammered, absolutely hammered by anti-aircraft fire. The 3D effects and the movement of everything on the screen is jerky, to say the least, and lining up shots is a pain in the ass, as yet another barrage balloon, or whatever they are, just homes mercilessly into your bomber and blows it up. To give some life to the on-screen blasting, your shooting is accompanied by the sound of gunfire, which overrides the constantly playing music, creating an aural mishmash of horror. And there are no options to alleviate this. We saw this in something else recently, didn't we? Where you were shooting, what was it? Was it that dwarf game? That dwarf and duck thing?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Stupid ideas. Just stop playing the main tune or put something else in. Along the ground, black objects will jerk toward you like churches and trees, and supposedly, not jerk like churches and trees, they are churches and trees that jerk towards you. And supposedly you can bomb them, but there seems no real control here. It says you press space to drop bombs, but I could never do it. The game just lurches about from side to side, and red enemies litter the skies, and then just pepper you or your bomb with bullets until it's game over, for which you'll be thankful. but then the music is still playing, and so you won't be. Like Saboteur 2 and Turbo Esprit before it, there's no need for this to be re-released onto the public. It's a Spectrum game from 1986, and it shows. And this is probably worse, as these games never really fare well on the C64 anyway. Their spiritual home is on the Spectrum. Leave them there. Just let them be. We don't need them. We've got loads of games. In 1986, this might have been okay, but even then, we were getting budget games like Thrust and Kickstart and so on. So 3 years later, there's just no place for this. It's another clear cash grab to make some money from games that should have stayed in the past. It's not quite deep shite, but it's not far off. What did you think?
I mean, as soon as I heard the music, I'm like, oh, that's familiar. Yeah, like you said, diddling, 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 diddling. It's early Hubbard stuff. So take it for what it is. It's not what you call a masterpiece. A bit. But it's
86. We'd had Monty on the Run and Crazy Comics by this point.
Yeah, no. It's like I said, it's early Hubbard, and it's not compared to some of the other music in 86. It's not terrible, but it's not one that's going to set you on fire. So, and it is there, like I said, it doesn't fit. The game everything about this was showing its age anyway. I mean, is it as bad as some of their other back catalogue items? It's a Spectrum game on the C64, so it's just, maybe it was amazing on the Spectrum in 86, but it was never going to play for me very well. I thought it was pretty crappy. Buzzing around, shooting at sprite planes such as they were in monocolor, uninteresting gameplay. I can imagine on the Spectrum it was probably pretty exciting back in the day, but this is just nothing to offer. I know it's only £2, but £2 is a lot of money. If it's not worth £2, then there's something not great about it. The novelty of the planes sort of fidgeting around the screen, and I know it's using sprites, so it's thankfully, but it just doesn't play out very well. It's just a bit of a mishmash of ideas that don't quite work. There's too much, flitting about. I mean, there may as well be moths, and you may as well just be swatting moths out the sky for all the difference it makes. And you never run out of bullets, which you would do on an aeroplane, unless your plane was infinitely capable of supporting mass, which nothing is. So that's a blatant lie. So, physics anomalies aside, I thought the music was passable. That's the only interesting thing about it. Other than that, it's a very bland, dull release that should probably just have been left on the Spectrum. And fair play, be good on the Spectrum. Be a great 1986 Spectrum game. There is a reason why Durrell made it on the Spectrum, made a 64 version, and buried it in the Phantom Zone. They thought nobody would be stupid enough to smash it and get it out.
Also, as well, looking at the Spectrum version has like a rolling countryside, so it's got hills and stuff. Because he said that in the instructions, you got to fly over the hills and stuff, don't crash into them.
Yeah, I never saw any of that.
There was no hills. The C64 version is flat. It is flat.
Yeah, well, that's, and for obvious reasons, because they probably tried it with the hills and they're like, wait a minute, it's gone down to 0.2 frames a second. So it's just not good. It was never going to be, and thankfully, I always wondered what the game was like to that music, because it's always come across it when you're looking through all of Hubbard's music on any of the music archives, and I've always wondered what it was like. Now I know, and I wish I hadn't. I could have kept that music in my mind as just a Johnny version of the 1941 theme, but now it's tied to that crappy game. So no, rubbish. Even for £2, it's just not good. Not good at all.
It's not good.
What a triple thrash treat that's been.
Yeah. Can we go back to talking about Joy-Cons and Wiimotes?
I think we should. Yeah.
I think we should. Oh, there we go. That's the first half. That's 3 games done. We've got 2 more to come after we do the next bit. But after this short break, we will be back where we'll be looking at TV and film for August 1989. I hope there's something interesting to talk about there. And we're back. Let's get into it. Film and TV, August 1989. Well, there's not a lot going on in the world of TV. 18th to the 20th of August, Michael Aspel presents Murder Weekend.
Chirpy.
I know, a 5-part televised murder mystery series for ITV. The show, devised and written by Joy Swift, sees celebrities attempting to solve a murder, with viewers also invited to identify the suspect.
And did we do this before, like TV Cluedo? Wasn't the one set in space?
There was one set in space, yeah. But they were, I think, when they sort of drive in the plot or something, or there was some weirdness going on. They were filming.
I can't remember, but it was like another bloody, it was Colonel Clink in the wardrobe with the iron cheese or whatever,
The interesting thing about this is Joy Swift. I mean, because she basically invented those murder weekends.
Yes, she did kind of invent that. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. In 1981, she came up with the idea of an interactive murder mystery that would allow hotel guests to become sleuths. And that's that's a massive industry now, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you done any of those yourself? Have you ever been to
I've not a murder one, not a hotel one. Have you?
Yes, we did. Yeah,
was it good?
Done one of those. Not really. No, I just found it really annoying, and it was each of the sort of parts of the playlet that happened to sort of where they play out parts of the thing was sort of between courses of a meal, and I was quite hungry that day, so it just
just kind of, I was like, just never mind the murder, just bring on the dessert. So I was like,
was there loads of hamdrum acting?
Yeah, it was very, very, very hamdrum, very, very. Yeah. What do you mean Dennis is dead? That kind of thing.
Oh no. Well, the 5 episodes for this were entitled "Dream of Monks a Coughing, a Funeral's in the Offing, Dream of Gulls a Screeching, Heed the Parson's Preaching."
Right.
Dream of Tom's a Snarling, a Quarrel with Your Darling, Dreams of Vipers Hissing, Your Favourite Dog's Gone Missing. That's not what I thought that was going. And Dream of Yaks a Mooing, Sign of Your Undoing.
They were struggling at that point, weren't they, to rhyme something with a mooing.
So, the cast included David Delve, Eric Allen, John Hudson, and Jason Salkey.
Okay. You remember them.
It's an absolute who's who.
Yeah, the first part of the thing you had to solve was who the hell they were.
Yeah, who's been killed? John Salvey. Who's he?
Who's he? Who's David Delve?
Don't know. He's the butler.
I bet it's pronounced Delvey, isn't it? It's bound to be David Delvey. It's not going to be Dave Delve, is it? You're going to be Dav Dev, is he?
Probably not. But there we go. That's where your murder mystery started. 1981. Joyce Swift.
It's quite impressive that Joyce Swift came up with that. I mean, obviously he's gone on to do. It's gone on to do all sorts of things. But TV, they've never really done it again, have they? Not very often to do things like that.
Not really. No. I mean, the film Clue was a little bit like that, wasn't it? I mean, it was based on Cluedo.
Yeah, it's essentially Cluedo, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever. What do they call it in America? I can't remember. It's not Cluedo, is it? Is it Clue over there?
Just Clue.
Clue.
Cluedo, which is the right pronunciation for Cluedo. Cluedo.
Why is it Cluedo?
Because it's D-O. You don't say...
Nintendo, is it? You don't go on your Nintendo.
Nintendo. Sega do what Nintendo don't. Cluedo. Nintendo. Play-Do.
Break out the Play-Do.
Ew. Who's done a doo-doo in the Play-Do?
That's a dodo. You and me.
25th of August, Rupert Murdoch delivers the McTaggart Memorial Lecture at the Edinburgh International Television Festival, in which he launches an attack on the narrow elitism within the British television industry. Oh, the irony.
Yeah, maybe there was at that time. That's before he took over it all.
Yeah, exactly. If there's going to be elitism and narrowness in this industry, it's going to be me.
I mean, the McTaggart Memorial Lectures are very famous lectures, actually, at that Edinburgh International Television Festival. Some been amazing keynote speakers in those through the years. Really amazing. And all the Murdochs have had a go at that. So Rupert Murdoch did it back in 89, and then his daughter had a go, I think, in 2000 and something, and then his son's recently had a go as well. Weirdly, his son's version was kind of almost the same as his father's version. So, 20 odd plus years later, whatever it was, he's back up there going, they're bloody TV elites. So, yeah,
and he's just taken over.
Yeah, exactly. So it's what I mean. So it's pretty crazy that he's still sore about it to this day. He's like, that bloody TV elites. But you're one of them, Rupert. You're a TV elite now.
You are.
I'm still bloody angry about it. And that's the best impression I'm ever going to do.
That's very good. It's very good. You've just lost us all our Australian listeners, but it's very good.
Rupert Murdoch probably would have done that anyway. And when he hears we've done this, he'll send in the flying monkeys to kill us. So be careful.
Absolutely. Which won't work because I did the research. 26th of August, ITV airs Michael Lindsay Hogg's science fiction mystery television movie, Murder on the Moon, starring Bridget Nielsen, Julian Sands, Gerald McRaney, Jane Lapoitier, Celia Imrie, and Brian Cox.
It is. Yeah.
It also had, what's his face in it? Dabney Coleman.
Yeah.
It focuses about the American and Soviet mining companies teamed up with several human settlements, exploited satellites' resources to survive as I can't read this. Who wrote this? As investigators between NASA and KGB are forced to solve the case together. Someone dies really slowly at the start.
They do, in space, yeah.
It's the slowest death I've ever seen. His death is really bouncy slowness.
The full thing is on YouTube, so you can go and watch the whole thing. We'll put a link to the show notes and the trailer. Weirdly, though, I noticed that there's two names for it. There's Murder by Moonlight is another name for it, as well as Murder on the Moon. So
that's weird. There's some good accents in this. Julian Sands' Russian accent is a thing to listen to.
Yeah. It's up there in the 2010 Russian accents. No, it's the same league as that.
There are some terrible murders here.
Yeah. That was like borderline. That's Scottish Russian.
That's what he sounds like.
Scrushian. That was very Scrushian.
But also, I noticed that Bridget Nielsen is a terrible actor.
Oh, you've just noticed?
I've not watched much of her in, but I also posted a picture of her. She's in that outfit when she gets out of a spacesuit right at the beginning. I want to know why.
It's because it's Bridget Nielsen, and she has to in every film or TV show she's in.
When I was watching
to get the cans
out, and she's just in a negligee.
That's it, but that's what she does. I mean, apart from, who's going to argue with her? She's 7 foot or something. She's a giant. Terrifying woman, I imagine. She's quite big and bold. Tackleberry would be good for her. They should get them together.
We should do. Maybe.
Yeah. Tackleberry!
Hightower Nielsen, together at last. You have to watch. We'll post a link. Just go watch the beginning and then go, why is she wearing that?
Yeah, exactly. And then, why is she wearing that?
Why?
Yeah, if you can get past the dodgy accents and the blatant overuse of the NASA logo, I think they must have got, they said, yeah, you can use it for that if you want. Right, that's on everything. Everything in there is NASA branded. Gets to the toilet, NASA branded toilet paper, everything.
NASA lid.
Everything's NASA in that, everything, which is fair enough,
Yeah. Finally, BBC One is News 39 for a week of new style programmes hosted by Sue Lawley, marking the 50th anniversary of the start of World War II. Something you want marking, isn't it? Each edition was presented in news format, reporting on events as if they were occurring in this present time. The bulletin ends on 3rd of September.
Yes, and of course, thanks to the magic of YouTube, they're all on YouTube, so you can go and watch them.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of them, and they are very depressing, as to be said. No, it's not. I mean, I get what the idea was behind it. I get that idea, but it is, reenacting the Second World War dramas in this way. It's like there's a British obsession with it around that time. There was loads of it, and I get it because it's, there's a 50th anniversary of the start of the war, and I get all it. I understand all that, but is this what people really wanted to see again? There's still people who are probably, who lived through that, who probably didn't ever want to actually reimagine what it was going to be like again, and so they have to then put on the TV. Come on, dear, we're going to sit watch a bit of telly. You got your cup of tea? Oh, it's the war again. Do they want to relive it again in modern graphics? No, I don't think they do they?
No. Well, the thing is, it's England's preoccupation with things we've won. See 1966.
Yeah, I get it.
It's that thing. And I don't. It's like, for God's sake, let it go.
No, it's just that the way the first one, the dramatic news of the start of the invasion and Poland and everything else, and it's just you think historically it's very important that these things are learned, obviously, and everything else. But is this the right format to do it? Do we need to sort of give it a modern graphical spin?
And as you've rightly pointed out, it does look like a Brass Eye or Day-to-Day episode.
It did. As soon as. Just go and watch it. You'll see. Go and watch that. Then go and watch the opening of any of the Day-to-Days, Brass Eyes. I'm
almost surprised they didn't go, it's war.
It's war. Yeah, this is the news. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, new shows. Let's get into some new shows. 2nd of August, Garfield and Friends.
Yeah.
I'm too old for this shit by now.
Yeah, I'm too old for it, but I never really liked Garfield, apart from a minor infatuation when I was maybe about 9. Quite like the little books.
And he has no
animated
friends.
One. No, he doesn't, because he's an unlikable thing. He's an unlikable, fat, lasagna eating. Yeah, surly, miserable. Yeah, sarcastic, miserable cat.
Doesn't need friends. It's better on his own.
But they introduced loads of wacky characters into this. So, if you watch the opening credits...
I did watch the opening credits. I was not happy about it.
So it's got that friends are this, and the Garfield sings that bit. And then there's a chicken and a pig. I'm like, what happened? When did they come into it? The last I remember, it was Garfield, Nermal, Odie the dog. Was it John, the guy that somehow lives in the house? And there was another character, female cat. I can't remember the name of that. Arlene, I think. Those are the characters I remember. Then suddenly there's a pig, a chicken, a dog, another dog, and a farmyard. Really, I'm like, what's going on? And how is that funny? How is Garfield a sarcastic lasagna-eating cat? Who doesn't, by the way, move his mouth when he talks, so he's telepathic, which is kind of something that completely skipped me for a long time.
Talk.
Yeah, but animated cats can do what they want, can't they? But this he's a telepathic cat, much like Sooty. Actually, was he spoke, didn't he? Sooty.
He whispered,
but only to one person. Yeah, just to one person.
He whispered.
He had that throat thing, didn't he? He couldn't speak.
Matthew Corbett.
That's right. He was a puppet.
Matthew Corbett was a Sooty whisperer.
Oh, Sooty and Matthew Corbett whisperer.
Oh,
we may never know the truth. There you go.
That's a proper M. Night Shyamalan twist.
It's a glass half full conversation, right?
Oh.
The twists in the plot.
It was the puppet all along.
Matthew Shamalama Ding Dong's just written that down. That'd be the next story now. Instead of it's people turning up at a house and telling everyone they're going to die or whatever, it'll be some, sooty, a mute puppet turns up and it turns out he's controlling everyone. Where do you get that idea from? You listen to our podcast, damn you, Shamalama Ding Dong.
You better run Shyamalan.
But yeah, I watched the Garfield and Friends, and my thought was just don't watch it. It wasn't funny at all. It was really unfunny.
It came from the same stable as Scrappy Doo, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know. 20th of August is the 15 Streets.
Oh.
I don't even know what this was, but you put a clip on it, and it was probably the dullest thing I've watched since those clips of the Sullivans.
Yeah, it was a British sort of British drama, wasn't it, with Sean Bean in it? That's as much as I saw. A very young Sean Bean in it, who puts on a good accent performance. He played Sean Bean and everything.
The clip you put on it's that guy out of Game of Thrones, isn't it? He's on the wall. He comes in and gives someone some tomatoes and then says he's off to church.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's the watch person in the end.
I was like,
he goes, there's some tomatoes, but they say they're oranges, which is weird as well, because they're oranges, they are. It's like, they're clearly tomatoes, you stupid idiot.
Yeah. And he goes, I'm off to church. What's strange about that? I'm off to church.
I'm off to church. When? Now. Dun, dun, dun. Next week, he will actually go to church. Yeah, it wasn't great, was it? It was one of those classic British, period
terribly
dramas.
Framed as well. When he walks in, his head's half cut off.
It's really that could have been the zoomed in version.
It could have been,
maybe. But it
maybe.
Isn't good. Don't watch it. Don't do it.
No.
It's on YouTube. Don't do it.
Also, 20th of August is the Wonder Years.
Oh, this did my head in this show.
Did you not like it? I used to like the Wonder Years.
There was a period of my life when I liked it. Yes, but it kind of ran out of cuteness for me because it was destined to run out of cuteness because Fred Savage was never going to stay cute forever. As he started to get older, he just started to get...
He's still cute now, Fred Savage. Have you seen a picture recently? He looks exactly the same.
I just didn't dig it. There's moments in it that are quite funny, and the idea of it, I suppose, but I just, in the end, I kind of, it went the same way as Dawson's Creek and all of those TV shows where it's like schmaltzy American kid dramas that,
Without the Wonder Years, you wouldn't have got Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not an important show. I liked parts of it, but over time I just got kind of No, and it also, I don't know which came first, this or Stand By Me, but obviously it owes a lot to that kind of vibe.
Stand By Me did.
So it owes a lot to the vibe of Stand By Me, that show, because it's got that kind of, back, reminiscent adult kid looking back when he was younger kind of vibe. And it's very, very Stand By Me-ish. So it's funny in places, though.
20th of August is The Endless Game. I felt
that was very strange
when I watched a clip of it.
Yeah, it's got an odd cast in it. It's a bit of a weird thing. I don't know. Espionage thrillers with George Segal in the lead roles. There's quite a few of those around.
I just watched a bit at the beginning where some girl came out thingy holding something over her chest, and then he walked in and put tape over her mouth, and it cut away. I was like, what's going on here? This is very odd.
You might not want to know. Is George Segal anything to do with Steven Seagal? That's what I'd like to know. Are they related in some way?
No, he's not.
Not from the same nest.
No, unfortunately not, no. Steven Seagal came along and kicked his nest out the tree. and then ate a carrot over the...
He was an egg that got kicked out of the nest, yeah. All right, fair enough.
Yeah. Weirdly, he's got music by Ennio Morricone.
It's actually really good music at the end of this game, so it's on the Morricone, one of his many compilations, but it is very good, so stands out.
And finally, 27th of August, GoldenEye, which is not obviously you think that's too early because it's not GoldenEye, the Bond film, but GoldenEye, the film about Ian Fleming.
It is, documentary.
Which I've never watched, so whatever. If you went to the cinema, speaking of James Bond, this is clearly why it's probably released, 4th of August, you could have gone and seen License to Kill.
Could. Yeah, 16th James Bond movie.
It's a good film. It's a good Bond film.
Yeah,
as we said, I think we said
final,
before,
wasn't it, for Dalton? Yeah,
it is the last one. Yeah, and as you've rightly noted, brutal. As I said at the time, it's
very
dark,
brutal.
It's dark and brutal. This film.
Yeah, surprisingly brutal. More so than I remembered it. There's actually, funnily enough, if you do a bit of YouTube hunting, all the most gruesome bits are on YouTube, of course.
Of course.
So a bit where a guy gets fed to a tiger shark, which is pretty gruesome the way it's done. A guy gets exploded in a decompression chamber. That's pretty grim.
Yep.
A guy gets dropped into a rock crusher, and he gets splattered in that, and that's not very nice. In fact, the guy in the decompression chamber gets popped. He's like his face expanded. He goes kaboom.
Yeah.
And then at the end, and not spoilers, but you know what? It's 20, 30 years or whatever. He sets the guy on fire with his posh lighter, which is a bit moribund, isn't it?
He does. Yeah. And he's out on his own, isn't he, to kill and. It's good. Yeah, it's good. It's a good one. This one.
Yeah, he loses his license to kill, doesn't he? That's the thing. So he gets taken off him because he doesn't want to do a mission. So he gets kicked out and he goes on his own mission.
It's got a really good truck, 18-wheeler truck chase as well towards the end.
The last act is amazing in it. It's really high action, great Bond action in that. Really good.
Really good stunts and stuff. Shame he didn't do another one, Timothy Dalton. I always thought, shame, because I thought he was a good Bond.
Well, that Bond movie, a lot of classic Bond stalwarts involved in the production of James Bond movies all died, more or less not at the same time, but they all died within a very short space of time. So
one was fed to sharks, one was in a decompression chamber, one was crushed in a rock crusher.
The thing to note is this wasn't an Ian Fleming story, was it, at all? There was bits that were nicked from other Ian Fleming stories, but it's not actually a fully fledged Ian Fleming one. It was completely original, apart from a little bit where they'd taken it from a couple of other Bond premises.
Yeah, I think so,
And then a few of the key Bond, like I said, the Bond people involved in production, and a few of the famous people who'd been involved in the previous Bond movies in some capacity had either died or retired or anything else. So this was kind of a final hurrah to a lot of the classic crew that were involved in Bond movies, but I think maybe Dalton was just part of maybe I don't want to do it. And I always felt maybe he just didn't want to be typecast as Bond. I think he liked the role, but if once you play Bond too many times, that's it. You're just James Bond forever. You can't do anything else.
True.
As the recent Bond has kind of proven, really.
Yeah, true. If you didn't fancy going and see that, you could have also gone and seen The Karate Kid 3.
The really convoluted plot to Karate Kid 3, and I didn't remember anything about the third one, so it's weird.
It is. And I think it's because, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because have you watched Cobra Kai?
No, I haven't watched any of them. It's on my list, but I just haven't had a chance to watch it. It's very good.
It's dumb, cheesy fun. You will roll your eyes every episode like that, but you'll be having a laugh at the same time while you're doing it. It's absolutely that. But it's got the main villain from this is back in it. And so all the main villains all come back into Cobra Kai. But this is the introduction of, John Kreese? I think Terry Silver, right. And Kreese is the thingy one, the guy from the first one. But his Vietnam buddy Terry Silver comes back and wants to wreak havoc or whatever. And Daniel San goes over to train with him and yada yada.
He's forced to, isn't he? Because they challenge him to be in a tournament and he says no, and then they basically hang him off a cliff. Him and his girlfriend at the time, and then he sort of agrees to do it, and then he goes to train with that guy, much to Mr. Miyagi's chagrin, who then kind of disowns him. Says, I'm not going to train you because I don't think you should be involved in it. Bearing in mind, at this point, he's also inadvertently had to buy into a bonsai tree shop. It's what I mean. The plot's a bit convoluted.
It's just best to go with it.
But it all ends in the same way. It all ends up with one fight at the tournament, and then he has to pull off some magical moves. In this, he does kata. Now, I've done karate, and I can tell you that's designed for fighting off multiple opponents. You can't just stand there and do a kata in front of someone and pull off a slight death move or something. They're just watching you going, right, punch in the face, you're done.
Yeah, I mean, Karate Kid 2 was good, but the move at the end of that was just swinging your fist from left to right. They'll never have the impact of the crane kick from the end of the first one. Because, it was kind of iconic at the time, that move. And
Do you know what's strange, right? If you think about the guy that plays the lead character in Karate Kid, what's he called? Ralph Macchio, isn't it?
Ralph Macchio, yeah.
Loads of Ralph Macchio films end with him in some kind of tournament doing a kind of special move. Loads of them. Even like the one he's in with Steve Vai when they're playing guitar. At Crossroads, he ends up at a big concert doing special moves as a final finishing move. Maybe that's his thing. He's been typecast as the guy that does the finishing move in things. Because he's in 3 Karate Kid movies. He's in that one. There's another one where he does it as well.
It could very well be.
Strange.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, in Cobra Kai, because he's 60 odd now, but he looks like he's unaging. His mum rather ever living. He must be something going on with him. 11th of August, we've been speaking about it for a while with soundtracks and stuff like that, but Batman finally makes its appearance.
Yes. More modern Batman, yeah.
This is a really... I mean, I loved this at the time. I was all over... I was massively caught up in the hype for Batman. I was like, it's going to be amazing.
Batman suit.
I did, yeah, and I used to run around sort of thing, pretending to be Batman until I jumped off that high rise and things ended badly.
It was unnerving when you didn't wear the suit, you just wore the belt. But yeah,
absolutely. Sometimes I lost the bottom half. It was a misplaced thing, but I was duty bound to wear the top half.
There were certain places and clubs where that look was very popular. Let me tell you.
Absolutely. I haven't watched this in years, and I'm kind of like loath to go back to it. I'm sure I've probably watched it, but there were always bits of it that I was more fond of than other bits. I was never a massive fan of Nicholson as the Joker, not particularly. I thought he was all right, but I think Keaton as Batman was very good, and I like some of the cinematography and some of the moments in it with the bat plane going up into the moon and things like that, and some of the cool bits and bobs. But I think it was always a film, and I think I always preferred the second one to the first one, Batman Returns. But that was just me. You've linked to an article about some of the harsh realities of rewatching Burton's Batman movies 30 years on, and I get it. Yeah, I read it. I think my problem with that is that, and it's one of the points is that all the films just feel like one-offs. And to an extent they are, because that's what they were back then. But that just sounds like someone who just wants extended universes for everything. Superhero films now have to exist in a larger universe with lots more going on. It's like, well, maybe they don't. I think
they don't, do they? The Batman movies don't exist in that universe. They almost exclusively don't.
There's that's what I mean.
So, but that's what, it's not. I don't think that was quite the point he's making there. Is that they need to exist in a big universe. He's basically saying that the characters remain pretty flat and one-dimensional, other than the stupid characters, and in their films they're really stupid. So there's depth to more modern superheroes, but there's not in the original Batmans with Tim Burton's Batman. They're all flat.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. But each film feels like its own thing.
Yeah, I can see that though in it. I can see that in some ways, but
I don't think that's a particularly bad thing.
I think it is if you're going to have because you've got continuation with Batman. You can't just each film can't just be an independent adventure with Batman. There has to be some contingency and coherency to it. Because he created the world of Batman, that darker world, which is, that is to his, to be commended. Yeah. But you then makes it into a pantomime. By the second movie, it's just a pantomime with really silly characters that don't mean anything.
Maybe.
And I think he gets the point with Batman, but misses the point with everything else. Batman and Gotham, actually. So he gets the gothic of Gotham. He gets the sort of gothic interpretation of Batman, actually, as in the Batman, not as in Bruce Wayne. Everything else is wrong. Everything else. And so when you look at it with not even a modern lens, you just look at it with the time lens, you sort of see that. You're like, actually, Jack Nicholson's, the funny parts aren't funny. They're out of place. Jack Nicholson's character is kind of not the right characterization for Joker.
Yeah, that's what I always thought at the time as well.
And then it's the same with later with Michelle Pfeiffer's character. And I don't know. I think we've been spoilt for Batman. I think that's the problem, because obviously we get the more modern ones.
The Nolan films are still the best ones, but
I admire the Gotham of Tim Burton's Gotham is the best Gotham. I think it looks dark. It looks like a Gotham should. Yeah. That part I really like, and that tonality I really like, and I like more of the sort of hands off, Commissioner Gordon stuff, as opposed to the kind of overly hands in that you get with the Nolan Batman, but because they feel a bit more like a cop drama, But I suppose that's kind of the angle he's going for. But I don't know. And the trouble is, I think I'm overwhelmed with Batman, because you've got the Batman games, you've got the Batman TV shows, you've got the Batman comics, you've got the Batman cartoons, you've got the Batman.
Well, we said this with the Batman games. I think the thing is to sort of remember, apart from the comics and the 60s TV shows and the film, Batman wasn't really a big deal to us at this point. And it was only with this film that really kickstarted Batman into a bit more of a higher profile, because then the game started to appear. We had two games, because people into comics like Batman probably.
Well, we had Batman cartoon. Don't forget, there was a Batman cartoon that was really popular in the UK.
Was there?
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
You must have seen the Batman cartoon show.
What, the later one, the Kevin Nolan one?
No, the one that was out in the sort of in the early 80s, the mid 80s. There's a Batman cartoon then.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was drawn in the same way that Space Ghost was drawn. That kind of look.
Maybe, I don't know. The only Batman cartoon I remember is the one that was in the 90s, the one with.
But he did do a disappearing act, didn't he? Batman, he just vanished and then it kind of every now and again they would show that one Batman movie from the 60s that came, where the one with the that one that would appear. No, some days you can't get rid of a bomb. That one.
Yeah.
And so that would pop up, and that was it. And then all of a sudden, this.
Then Joel Schumacher came along and killed it again.
Yeah, that's just that's the studio. That's the studio not liking Tim Burton's direction and not liking the way he was taking the movies. And where was he going to go with it? I think that was their problem.
So they chose to give it to Joel Schumacher, who took it into a neon nightmare.
Yeah, just introducing silly characters. Silly characters that have no meaning. I mean, it's a pity actually, because of all the characters that could have really been good. Jim Carrey as a villain,
as the Riddler, should have been great.
It should have been amazing, and just instead of this camp nightmare that it became. But
by the time you get to Arnie as Mr. Freeze,
yeah, it's all silly, and that's when you get stupid jokes in there. And is it George Clooney plays Batman at that point? And he's got Batgirl in it, and
bat nipples,
rubbish. Yeah, and also it's got Robin actually says holy rusted metal, doesn't he?
Yeah,
it's red metal and it's rusty and it's got full of holes. I'm like, right, off. I actually switched it off at that point.
Yeah. Interesting, though, the Val Kilmer one has one of the very first digitally animated full human animation sequences in it. It's when he falls off the building and he's falling down. That's all digitally animated, his cloak and everything. That person, it's not, it's one of the very first instances of a fully humanoid digital animation.
Yeah. I bet it looks crap now compared to modern effects.
Which one's that? Was that Batman Forever? That's the third one, isn't it?
Batman Forever, yeah. It's a good soundtrack to that, though.
But, I think also as well, this had that great soundtrack, which helped to lift it up as well.
Yeah. And actually, that's the big character in it. That really does lift it up.
Yeah. And some of the designs, I really like some of the sequences. The Batmobile was quite interesting. It's massive, thing, and just a Batcave and everything. There's some really cool sequences in this. Like you said, the set dressing and all that around it is great. And I do actually like the final confrontation in the cathedral. And
I think the final fight's a bit of a letdown, but the gothicness of it, the gothic parts, when it's gothic, it's really good. And I'll tell you what, I was in the I've been to studios in Los Angeles where there's a Batman exhibition, and you can go and see all of the Batmobiles in one big warehouse. It's quite an amazing thing. And the best Batmobile the way they make them, because they make them full size as well. Obviously for the movie, there's replicas, but they're full size. The best one in there was the Batman one from this movie by miles.
Yeah, it is good, that one.
And the modern one's just like a giant tank vehicle, but that one does look really, really good. The classic
It is interesting if you watch Batman Begins as well, because I've watched that again recently. The Batman Begins is almost like from a set dressing wise and from a sort of continuity point of view, it almost feels like the link. It is almost like a link between Tim Burton's Batman films and what will go on into Dark Knight. Because Gotham in Batman Begins feels a lot more gothic and Burton-esque and dark and things like that than it does. Well, whereas it's clearly just Chicago in Dark Knight.
Yeah. Quite agree. Yeah, it's not as good in that, and it's certainly not as good as in the one with Bane either. That's where it gets a bit. It just feels like Anytime USA really, as opposed to
exactly.
Kind of
so the Dark Knight pairing sort of thing. It just feels like a city, because a lot of it's filmed in daytime as well. Whereas a lot of Batman Begins with the Batman sequences are all at night, and I just seem to remember it. That sequence towards the end when they and it's got a really crazy Batman plot as well, where they're going to release all that smoke into the atmosphere and turn everyone crazy with Scarecrow's fear gas.
Yeah.
And Ra's al Ghul with the sort of suspended metro and stuff over the city and stuff. It just feels like a more weirdly sort of comic book city, whereas which was I felt was more in keeping with these first two Burton films. But.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, that is an entire heritage of Batman stuff, isn't there, around all of the graphic novels that are far more gothic, and that lends itself to that. That I forget the name of the famous writer that did them all, but is it Alan Moore? Yeah,
Alan Moore's done them. There's been loads of people done them. Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great movie, Batman. Still, it's just the villainy of it is not quite. But we've had such good Jokers, it's hard to look back at that one now and go, when you've had Heath Ledger's Joker.
We've had a good Joker. Otherwise, we had Jared Leto.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, you've got Heath Ledger's Joker, you've got, what's his name? You've got Joker, which is a genuinely brilliant film, has to be said.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Joaquin Phoenix, yeah.
So you've got those, and then you've got all of the game Jokers and all of the characterization in the comics as well, which is what's his name?
Mark Hamill in the cartoon.
Yeah. So those are the Jokers. I much prefer that evil street crazy mix up crazy genius play.
I do. The one thing in that article, the one I really did agree with, was there was no point in making Joker the one who killed Batman's mum and dad.
That shouted studio intervention to me.
Yeah, probably someone on the script. Well, I wouldn't it be good if he killed his thing. He's like, no, because it's just Joe.
And they must have hunted high and low for a guy who had a smile that wide.
Yeah, they must have done. Yeah,
he's a mad smiler, isn't he? That guy.
Yeah, he is. Joe Smiler.
Irony.
Also, the same day, if you didn't fancy that Batman, you could have gone seen Crusoe.
Nah, I'm not going to see Crusoe. Batman was literally taking over the world at this point.
Yeah, that was Aidan Quinn, wasn't it? As Robinson Crusoe, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Whatever. 18th of August, a week later, if you weren't all superheroed out, you could have gone seen Kickboxer.
You could have, yeah. That was a big hit for Cannon, wasn't it? That Cannon film.
So bad. That film's so bad.
It's rubbish. It is utterly rubbish.
Obviously, it's the Jean-Claude Van Damme Kickboxer film. It's dreadful.
Yeah.
It's dreadful.
Terrible
but
film.
It does have the classic dance.
It has the Kickboxer drunken dance, yeah. I'll put the clip in the show notes. Just go and watch it and fill your life.
If you don't do anything and never look at our show notes, just go look at that, find that, watch the Jean-Claude Van Damme dance scene. You'll thank us. You will thank us.
It's legendary. I remember laughing when I first saw it because we had a friend who was seriously he had a cardboard cutout of Jean-Claude Van Damme in his bedroom. The guy was into it. He was into it. He brought this round for us to watch because he was into this and that other one, Bloodsport. Yes. We watched this. We all fell about laughing when he started dancing, and he took it very personally, that.
He did, because that's how he danced.
Because he was, well, he kind of modelled himself on Jean-Claude Van Damme. So he was like, no, he's into all the martial arts and everything else and all of that. And then when we were like falling about laughing at it's not good dance either. It's not good. And he's in Breakdance, the movie, isn't he? One of them as well. It's not good.
I don't know. It's not good. 25th of August, Three Fugitives.
Unfunny. That's the tragedy of that film. It's just not funny.
Is it Martin Short, Nick Nolte, and some girl?
Yeah,
something?
yeah, exactly. And you think, your sides are going to split, but Nick Nolte just doesn't work in a comedy partnership with Martin Short. It just really falls flat.
No. Someone thought it'd be like good like he was in 48 Hours. But that was that's because he's the foil to Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's Eddie Murphy, for goodness sake. Martin Short's a funny guy, but he's no Eddie Murphy in his heyday, especially.
Yeah. Same day, you could have gone and seen The Return of the Musketeers. I think I did go see this, actually, because I loved the Musketeers films, 3 and 4 Musketeers.
Yeah, they're good.
They're really funny. It's those little sort of ad-libs and stuff in the background, the little side clips from the non-characters. Brilliant stuff.
They're good. I mean, they're kind of dubious sexuality films now, I suppose, and the representations. But they are what they are. But the sadness here is that Roy Kinnear, who was a key part of a lot of those films, died during the making of that film when he fell off a horse.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, poor Roy. He did.
And also it's got Oliver Reed in that film, who is pretty much smashed all the way through that film. You can kind of tell.
Yeah, pretty much.
You can tell. I mean, goodness me. Wow.
Yeah. I know Gary really likes the Return of the Musketeers and the Three Musketeers.
He always
films.
fancied himself as a D'Artagnan, didn't he?
But he was more of a Roy Kinnear.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was no Porthos, was he, or Aramis, that's for sure.
No, or Athos, no. And finally, for the month, he could have gone and seen Bull Durham, another baseball film with Kevin Costner in it.
Yeah, he did a lot of them, didn't he? It's this where he started to appear in stuff, though, isn't it? He starts to appear, drift across your transom.
Bull Durham. Costner.
Yeah, exactly.
Bull.
Is
Costner. Durham.
Costner is, 2 for 1 at Costner.
Who's he in it with? It's Susan Sarandon,
with Bull and Durham.
Yeah.
Story of somebody famous called Bull Durham. Yeah, I'm not going to watch that.
No, it's got Tim Robbins in as well with unfathomable hair. There you go. That's it. That's your film. That's your TV. Obviously, Batman's probably the most interesting standout one from there. And you could have seen Bridget Nielsen, for some reason, in a negligee get out of a spacesuit.
Negligee spacesuit, yeah.
That's what they all wear. That's what they all wear, even the men.
That's it. That's it.
It's just what they all
NASA
wear.
is nothing if not liberal. They've gone the way the Virgin's gone. You can wear what you like.
Wear what you like. That's it. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We've still got a whole 2 more games to get through. We do have a crap and charts and stuff. So please do stick around and we'll get through them. Okay, and we're back. Let's round out August. Let's get on with this. 2 more games. Let's get through them. Graham, you've got all the simulators this week. This is Arcade Flight Simulator. Tell us about it.
So this one is actually from Codemasters this time. It was developed by Amazing Games. That's Dennis Webb and Martin Webb. Well, that's the designers of it. That's the Outrun Road Blasters people, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This was $2.99. 41% though. It's neither arcade nor flight nor simulator with that kind of score.
No.
Weirdly, there's a manager credit on this. The manager is David Darling and Dennis Webb. So I don't know. I'm getting the feeling that Dennis Webb might have been a minder. He
would have changed his surname to Strong if he was.
It was coded by Mike Clark. He did Super G-Man. Do you remember Super G-Man? Way back in episode 80-something, I think.
It wasn't very good, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was like kind of a moon buggy type game with a guy walking. Yeah, and also coded by Stu Regan. He's only done this. The graphics are by Nigel Fletcher. He did Ghost Hunters.
Ghost Hunters. Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't good, that. Wasn't good at all. And the music, of course, it's by the Codemaster Maestro himself, David 30-Second Whittaker.
That's what his partner calls him.
So this is classed as an overhead arcade action arcade flight simulator. And it says in the blurb, in Arcade Flight Simulator, you'll find yourself pitted against the cream of the airborne opposition through 3 different combat scenarios. There's biplanes over Germany in 1918. We've gone biplanes again. World War II fighters over Pearl Harbor.
What was that?
That's World War II fighters over Pearl Harbor. So, okay, I'm just going to let it go.
Okay.
Speaking, that's Pacific conflict, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's not a place you'd want to set something. That's not a nice thing, is it? I don't know. And fast jets over East Africa in the 90s. Just, because. They couldn't think of the war then.
We all remember that conflict.
All require a different deployment of weapons technology and your dogfighting knowledge. I can tell you that the jets in the 90s don't dogfight so much. You must win each battle by shooting down all the enemy planes. If you run out of ammo, land on a friendly runway and reload, just like you do in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the real thing, the aircraft can dive, climb, and bank.
You remember them.
In the 2-player game, you can choose your planes and war scenario. That's good. Destroy your opponent's aircraft in a frantic dogfight before he gets you.
Frantic?
This is controlled with your joystick. I know. It says, in Arcade Flight Simulator, you'll find yourself pitted against the cream of the airborne opposition. We've already said that. So it says your mission, should you choose to accept it. These are the words off the instructions. Take off from the airstrip, search the skies for enemy bandits, and show them all the quick way to the ground. Okay. When the enemy has no aircraft...
Down there.
Go down. When the enemy has no aircraft left, watch the on-screen enemy counter, land on your runway, and pick up a bomb. Take to the skies once more, locate the enemy base, luckily it has a B on the roof, and drop your bomb on it. There is more than one base on World Wars 2 and 3. Oh, God, it's World War 3 in Simulator. Did that happen in the 90s?
Well, that's the African one, isn't it? Because obviously this is 1989, so 1990s is in the future to them.
Yeah, freaky. So the weird stirring music from Dave Whittaker will welcome you to this really odd game. A busy title screen with some medium res aeroplanes, a blocky sort of text title thing at the top, and some options that add spectrum conversion written all over them.
Yeah,
1 or 2 to select the kind of opponent, human versus cyborg, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So the game starts and the main game window is at the top of the screen. It's a top-down view of what in the first level looks like sort of a country park with like a golf course on it and a cricket club. I thought it looked like our local cricket club with the world's largest piano on the left.
Yeah,
which was strange. You'll see a minute, tiny little white plane on the runway ready to take off, and there's airplanes already buzzing about. Some of the shading on the buildings is confusing and wrong because there's dithered shading in the wrong place at the wrong angle, and it makes no sense whatsoever. So clearly this is on a world with 10 suns. There's 10 suns on this world, and none of the trees are shaded in the same direction as anything else. It doesn't make any visual sense whatsoever, but it is top-down view, so at least you know that there's buildings and stuff. So, and everything's the same height, essentially. And below that is your UI, which consists of an ammo indication with little bullets, the number of enemies you've yet to shoot. There's your score there and your bonus, currently how much bonus you have. There's a fuel gauge. There's a peculiar kind of, I think it's an altimeter, which says alt, which shows you how high, a visual indication of how high you are, even though you can see that anyway by looking at how high you are. And then there's a number of planes you have remaining. You start off with 3. And obviously, if you get shot or you bump into something or crash, you're going to lose a life, aren't you? Makes sense, really. Mm-hmm. So you'll pull back to take off in this game. You push forward to dive, left and right, rotate you around. Not my favourite kind of controls, that. Doesn't play unlike the aeroplane parts in the old Atari 2600 game Combat, actually, really, with a bit more graphics in it, maybe.
Yeah.
You take off and then zoom around the skies, dogfighting the enemies that fly around. The graphics are very basic, single-colour airplane sprites, pretty limited background details, really. Sort of some basic tree shapes, I suppose. Like I said, they're all kind of the same height. A few buildings are dotted about, nondescript, and you won't know what they are. There is like an area where it says fuel, which if you are starting to get low on fuel, which you will very quickly, you have to sort of fly low, and you can refuel yourself and then sort of zoom off again. And then you've got to do the similar thing if you run out of bullets. And then obviously, as I've said, there's a number of enemies that fly around in sort of spin around in annoying circles. They're erratic flyers, I tell you. They don't fly in formation. They just fly any old loop-de-loop.
Yep. Yes, they do.
So they've gone for the most erratic war dogfighting ever. Like, no, they're flying formation right now. Everybody scramble! Fly like they learnt they're from Wasp School. Like, how can we attack this base? I don't know. Fly around like wasps. Like, they're like wasps are in a bin at Alton Towers. So, trying to swat them away. Get out. Try not to be stung, man. All pretty basic stuff. It's all on one screen, so when you it does scroll a little bit, doesn't it? I can't remember if it scrolls. I think it scrolls
does scroll left to right. Yeah.
But it scrolls left to right a little way, some ways, and then but if you go off the top and bottom, you come back on the top. So if you go off the bottom, you come at the top, and it's kind of loops, which is a bit unnerving when it does that. Yeah. I think I'd have preferred it if it just bounced you back into the game. So it's sort of, if you went to the side, it just turns you around and you go back the other way. I mean, that might have made you crash, but I prefer that to that fly off the bottom and come at the top, because it makes no sense then whatsoever. I mean, it's bad enough with the perspective that you're at, let alone scrambling your brains by flying off to the left and reappearing on the right, like some kind of transmutation. How do you do that? God, that biplane's got some kind of crazy, technology on it. What's he doing? Uh-huh. Anyway, so you fly around, shoot at stuff. That's kind of the game. That's it. That's what you do. There's not a lot more to it than that. You've got limited ammo, limited fuel. You need to keep an eye on that as you buzz around. All runs out pretty quickly, so you got to be on your toes. Like I said, you can refuel if you want to. Other than that, you're just chasing planes around, shooting them, then you get your bomb, you got to drop the bomb, and then carry on and carry on and carry on. So it goes. Is it fun? I suppose passable fun, maybe, for a minute or two, but it's pretty boring. Very limited what you can do. And there are other faster planes you get to as well as you progress, and it actually becomes more impossible. So by the time you're flying a jet plane around, I'd defy anyone to be able to play it because it's just stupid. I mean, it's bad enough that they're zipping about doing loop-de-loops as bloody biplanes. It just doesn't play out with much fun. And the bit over, I feel like the bit that's over Pearl Harbor is in bad taste because Pearl Harbor is a place where really horrible things happened. And it wasn't that wasn't where the war played out over Pearl Harbor. You know, Pearl Harbor was where the Japanese bombed and killed lots and lots of American naval staff and people. I mean,
why wouldn't you have the Battle of Britain or something? Or
why not to make it a battle? You know, or there's that many battles that occurred over the Pacific. Why does it have to? The one that wasn't a battle was Pearl Harbor. That was a bombing, a suicidal bombing campaign by the Japanese. Horrific. So I don't get the, and it's just because it's, I'll put it in Pearl Harbor. You can put ships in the Pearl, but you didn't need to do any of that. It's pretty lame. There's an arcade sentiment to it, but not a good one. No, it looks like a really old arcade, but there probably wasn't an arcade that was like this. Maybe there wasn't, but it just doesn't play very well. Maybe there's fun in 2-player mode. I doubt it. It's £3. Still a lot for what it is. It just looks like a very basic game for 1989. Back in 1985, that might have been the business, and maybe that arcade formula back then might have done something, but it's not in 1985, is it? It was also released on the Amstrad and the Spectrum, and none of them are great. Oddly, the C64 is actually the best of a bad bunch. It's not saying a lot. I didn't think much to this at all. I didn't have any fun playing it. I zipped around the skies a little bit. Targeting anything's potluck, really, and it's just a matter of just zipping about, shooting until you eventually either kill the enemies or you crash. There's not much more to it than that. And because of that, it's just another dull. And it's not a simulating anything. Stop putting the word simulator on. It doesn't mean anything. It's just, I don't know what they could have just, it's just fancy combat, and it's not very good combat either. It's not fancy. It's just a better version of combat. I would have rather played the Atari one. At least it was honest about being basic. What did you think?
Yeah, no, that's what I thought. No. Yeah. What is this? No. Bland left to right flying over a looping landscape with single colour biplanes. And is it biplane week? Did someone not tell me? This is two budget biplane games.
There? It seems to have quite good work.
Annoying enemies, annoying controls, boring gameplay. As a shooter, it's weak. As some kind of bi-directional scroller, it's boring. Yeah, the controls are simple, but they're like you said, they're not, I don't know, they didn't work properly. The aim is obvious, but it's bland and boring. There's not a lot to say, so God knows why it has a simulator tag on it. What is this simulating? There must be at some point, somebody must have gone to him. Why do you keep putting simulator on the end of anything? What are you simulating? Why? This is not simulating anything. Budget ass, as far as I'm concerned. No, I didn't like this. I thought it was just, there's way better things than this. Go get Iridium if you want a left to right bi-directional scroller to shoot stuff, or the multitude of other versions of that have been released that are probably better than this. Nah, I didn't like it. 41% generous. There are better games to be had. We played Heavy Metal Paradroid the other week for £3.
Yeah. We did, yeah. Goodness, yeah. Yeah, no.
No, don't bother with this. There we go. It's Arcade Flight Simulator. Yeah, no, don't do it.
No.
Let's move on. To our last game of August, and this game is, it's to round off the month. It's an infamous platformer. That is Rick Dangerous. This is Rick Dangerous from Firebird. But more importantly, and more interestingly, this is the first game we've seen from Core Design. And Core Design, interesting. It's an apt thing that this game is the first we've seen from them. And it's about an adventurer going on a globe-trotting adventure and delving deep into caves and finding treasure. Sound familiar? Obviously something Core Design will revisit to pretty big success in a few years with Tomb Raider, I do believe.
Yes, absolutely.
I know it's not the same people who worked on it, but the actual core concept of sort of taking an Indiana Jones style adventure and putting them in an adventure where you go around the world and dig up treasure and running around stuff. Well, it's Tomb Raider, isn't it? Anyway, this is another time in a different game. It's not Tomb Raider. It's Rick Dangerous. I believe this was on the Amiga, but it could have been all re-released at the same time, probably. I think it's just a multi-release. But this port, I think the original design, though, is on the Amiga, because this port was designed by Terry Lloyd, Simon Phipps, Rob Toon, and Bob Churchill, who I think are they're the Amiga guys. So the design is down to them. The C64 version was coded by Stuart Gregg, graphics by Simon Phipps and Terry Lloyd, and the music is by David Pridmore. There we go. There's a story here, and I'll quote direct from the manual. The adventure starts here. Will Rick Dangerous, intrepid superhero and part-time stamp collector, survive his first mission in the Aztec Temple of the Tribe? That's what it says, and it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Should he do so, Rick will face new hazards in the Egyptian tomb and the enemy fortress. That's it. That's your story. So the game starts quite simply. It's got Rick, our hero, Rick it's got like in a roll of film on the title screen, and the name of the game at the top, along with the familiar core design and Firebird logos at the bottom, and a pretty unremarkable tune playing. It's not great. It's just a tune. It's not offensive, but it's not particularly great. There's not much else to do here, so a press of the fire button gets us going. And this is where some of the nice stuff starts. We get the intro to the first level, and in the reel of film where we saw Rick, we see it's like cuts to a little cutscene of him, and he's parachuting into the jungles of South America in 1945, and then he's chased by somebody off screen. It's quite cool. I quite like it. And there's a bit of text telling us that Rick has crash landed among the tribe of the Gulus, who he was searching for and must escape from them. Basically, he's searching for this lost tribe. He's crash landed into the middle of them. They're going to kill him, and he's got to escape. That's kind of it. It's of its time. All right, it's his adventure going into thing, and it's 1989, whatever. But the presentation here is nice. Is a nice way of setting the scene, and actually has a suitable piece of music along with it. Starts the ball rolling. See what I did there? Quite well.
Very good.
This music continues into the game, and what we have here is a scrolling. It's a scrolling platformer that is broken down into various screens across each level. So essentially, it scrolls for a bit, but then it'll stop, and then you'll move on to the next level, and that's where you get a checkpoint. So straight away, the game sets out its stall, because as soon as you move to the right, you are chased by a boulder. Immediately, you will die straight away. This game sets its stall out. You won't be expecting it. You'll die. And you've got to navigate a series of drops and turns to avoid it. Not only that, you think you've ran away from it. You go to the right, you drop, you run off to the left, you think you're fine. But then right at the bottom, there's a tribesman who will kill you immediately as soon as you land. If you don't jump immediately upon landing back the way you've been sort of back away. And that, it's harsh. I lost my first 3 lives within about 10 seconds. It was game off, and I was like, right, okay. It's that kind of game, is it? So you've got to run, drop, and then be holding bounce. The good thing about this is that the controls are snappy, and I'll come to them in a bit. So once you land and you jump, you'll also learn something else here, and that the traps in the game also kill the enemies as the boulder hits the tribesmen and kills them. So it's actually teaching you something here, that this game doesn't like you, but the controls are snappy. You can get away from them. It is fair. Everything's fair, and that you can utilize the traps themselves to kill the enemies. That's quite interesting, and that's quite, you need to know that. Controls are simple enough. You've got left and right to run, up to jump or climb ladders, the up diagonals for jumping in those directions. You need to hold left and right as well to move, so you've got kind of control while you're in the air as well. You use down to duck, or climb down, and down diagonals to crawl in that direction. Should you hold fire, then you can press down to lay some dynamite. You can press up to fire your gun, and you've got 6 sticks of dynamite and 6 bullets, unless you find some more. Or you can press left or right to jab with your stick. And that's it. These are your weapons for the game, and you don't get any extra. You just have to make your way through these. You get them right from the beginning, and so it's this core idea that these are your tools. The game will never deviate from them, and you can make it through as long as you pay attention and you don't rush. So the tools you've got, the dynamite, I'll read from the manual to tell you what they do. The dynamite may be laid to trigger traps, blow away walls, enemies, and generally do some damage to allow our hero to continue his quest. Also has the added feature of being very dangerous when lit, so you've got to get away from it as quickly as possible before it detonates, otherwise it'll kill you. The big stick may be used to jab. There's a bit more to this because it actually freezes enemies in place for a moment. So you can jab them and then they'll stop, which allows you, if you can, to lay some dynamite and leg it and take them out that way if you've got no bullets left. The gun fires bullets. There will be a limit to the number of bullets this holds. By killing a native, a bonus may be left behind, which when collected will replenish the supply. This means the player may have to go back and put himself yet again in danger. Use your ammunition wisely. Remember, the gun is often a trigger to activate a trap rather than to just kill the enemy. So you've got to figure out when to use this. And that's it. Like I said, you can replenish your ammo, but you don't get anything new. As noted, the game is also full of traps and fiendish elements that are set to kill you and rob you of one of your lives. And again, this is what the manual has to say about traps. In avoiding traps, be resourceful like Rick. The traps are devious. You may need your stick, gun, or dynamite, or simply your wits to survive, depending on the nature of the trap. There are no instructions to how each trap is triggered or avoided, so be careful. Think ahead. things are not always what they seem. Okay. So the game takes place in the majority of the screen, with your score, number of bullets, dynamite, and lives at the top. There's not much UI, and there's a lot of screen space to move around in. So the game is structured into discrete scrolling screens. What this means is that each level, so there's 4 levels in the game, and each one is made up of 30 screens in total, according to the box. But these are split into scrolling sections, so there might be like 5 sections, each with 6 screens worth of scrolling within them, and that's how it progresses. When you make it through one of these scrolling ones and you flick to the next screen, you'll hear a little ding, and that means should you die, you start back at the start of that section and not back at the start of the entire level, so you get some checkpoint in. But you have to make it through the entire scrolling section to get a checkpoint. As I said, there are 4 levels in all to make your way through, and these all have a suitable filmic intro to them. And after the first one, you make your way to Egypt and the pyramids, where you need to, you make your way to Egypt and the pyramids, where you need to recover the Jewel of Ankel. The third level takes a darker turn, where you are tasked with rescuing some POWs from the notorious Schwarzendampf castle in Germany. Should you make it through this, then you learn that the Nazis are to launch an attack on London from their secret missile base, so you can head there to stop that. Succeed here, and you get the game over message, where you can learn that in space, the massed starships of the Barthian Empire are poised to invade Earth. Weird. Why do games set in World War II always seem to include unexpected alien attacks? That Rocket Ranger did the same thing, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? So you can see that, if you think jungle, pyramid, World War II, Nazis, they've clearly just watched, Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones films, and they've taken those sort of plots from them and they've gone for it. Okay. So, yeah, like I said, it's an Indiana Jones inspired thing. We know that Lara Croft was originally a guy. It was an Indiana Jones inspired thing. And so we can see that somewhere in core, there is a core idea that we need to make a decent Indiana Jones game. So the game is a torturous trek through these 4 levels where death awaits you at every turn. There are blind jumps, unexpected enemies, arrows and guns that fire from walls, blocks that will crush you, rocks that will kill you, spikes that will fall on your head, and so on and so on. This game is designed to thwart and punish you at every turn. But, and I think here's the important part, it is designed. There is thought process design behind this. The enemies and traps are always the same and never random. You can trigger them the same way each time, and then this way you'll start to make your way deeper into the levels as you learn the route through each one of them. You will die a lot, and this can breed frustration, but this is the type of game that will keep you coming back because you learn something new with each run. The graphics are really nice throughout, great backgrounds, well-drawn sprites, and a thematically consistent, chunky look to everything that I thought worked really well. As you progress, some of the pieces of music are really well done, and the fact that this is all in one load is even more impressive. Playing this, I was really reminded of the game Spelunky from a few years back from Derek Yu, in the way it looks and feels and the way it is usually the player's fault when they die from the same thing twice. Spelunky was obviously a sort of procedural roguelike, so it's not completely the same, but the visual sort of iconography and the look of this felt very similar to that, and the way that Spelunky would punish you for rushing. It's that kind of game. You have to take your time, look at the screen, edge forward, drop off a platform, be ready You've got to be ready. You can't just, arse your way through this because you'll be dead in seconds. You've got to think. And Spelunky was the same kind of thing. This is a game that rewards patience, some mapping, and despite its reputation as a brutal game, this is a much more approachable game than something like Navy Moves or games which just throw millions of respawning enemies at you, I thought.
Yep.
I think the score here is a little harsh. It only scored 73%. I think that's a little harsh. This is only 10% better than Navy Moves and worse than Cockatony Wolf.
Yeah. Shocking.
So there's no chance. I think this should have been in high 80s or even maybe a sizzler, as the design in this is obvious. And although you will curse some of the traps when they get you, you will keep playing, especially when you think of something like RoboCop, games like that, which you get in sizzlers and high scores and things like that. This is way better. Way better. You'll keep playing to get past them, as the knowledge of each level and mastering it is a reward that games seldom offer at this time. If you think about, we played that Baal and things like that, other sort of Amiga games that we've had a look at, this one clearly has the people behind this were going, right, we're going to make this hard, no problem about it, but you can learn it. I thought this was really good. Realised I'd never actually played it before. Don't think I'd ever played Rick Dangerous. I think I might have played the second one, but not this one. This was another game I've managed to visit and see what all the fuss is about. You can see the design here, like I said, and even if it's different to people who are going to make Tomb Raider, the basic elements of that game are certainly here to see. I thought this was a really good game. You can see why it's referenced a lot. Yeah, it is hard and it does have that reputation, but I was making my way through it slowly, but getting further each time. And that's quite a drip feed of, those, whatever it is in your brain, the dopamine in your brain sort of thing, that it's like, you can make it further if you just You take your time, don't rush, but you'll rush because you want to get back to the bit where you got to last time, and then you'll die and you'll curse. And it's that kind of game. It's that good core loop. The game loop here is solid, and I really enjoyed this. And I think this should have been, on retrospect, a higher score than 73%. That's what I thought. And a nice way, a tough way, but a good way to end off the month. What did you think?
Yeah, I always liked Rick Dangerous. I remember I have actually played it a lot more on the Amiga than I ever did the C64. But that said, there's a great game in here. Nice arcade sentiment to it, actually. A good platform game. Nice sprite design, really detailed, a good theme, thematically all consistent. The graphics get really good in the later levels as well.
Yeah, they do.
The music is really jolly, really nice presentation. It's got it going on. It's a good, solid, well-made game. The collision is a little bit unforgiving here and there, but you know what? That's just the challenge of the game. And it doesn't bombard you with loads of stuff. So you just got to take a bit of care and think about what you're doing. It's not, there's some really fun parts. Running down the first bit when you're getting chased by the boulder is really good fun. Then starting to realize, how you have to tactically use your bombs and your bullets and things like that. And it's actually pretty good. I got right the way through the first level, which I was quite pleased with. Took a while, but I got through that. Second one was just beat me. It was just too hard, but it was a game that you can go back and you didn't feel tortured by. There is perhaps a little bit of over-reliance on some of the leaps of faith in there, a little bit of that maybe, which is, there's a little bit, maybe too much of that. Some instant death traps. There's, fool's logic in there a little bit. And, okay, it's not an over-reliance, but there's perhaps just a little bit more than it needed. But there's still other good stuff going on. This game is obviously a memory test, really, or inherently a memory test. That's okay, that's what it is. Generally, those sort of games can play a bit unfair, especially with my memory, because it's crap. But that said, you need a little bit of mapper's mentality for this, or a good memory, but you also just need a little bit of tenacity. You've got to sort of, this game does reward you if you stick at it, because, there are some really devious little bits and tricks, and you just got to edge your way around a bit and not just go leaping around. And it's quite good fun in that way. I don't know. There's a good game in there. Maybe, is it a tad expensive what it was? I don't know. Maybe on the C64 a bit. It was. I don't remember ever paying for it, so I don't suppose it's really a moot point for me. But either way, I completely agree with you around the Zap scoring. For me, this would have been an early 90s type score for the C64, just because the graphics and the sound and the presentation alone have often held games that are not even as good as this one. It's often held them up into the 80s. So for this to get 73 feels a bit punitive. And yes, the Amiga one is very good as well, but this has got really nice graphics on the C64 and it plays really well. You might never get to the end because it is really hard as it gets further in, but it's the kind of game that has enough intrigue and enough variety and enough depth. There's a lot of depth in the game. There's a lot of game to get through. And in a similar way, you've got to scoot around and get the stuff. I really like Rick Dangerous. I think it's been given a bit of I think over time, it's been given, the lens has looked over it and it's kind of been a bit overlooked as a game that's just too hard and too much to bother with. But put this side by side with Stormlord, it's just as good looking as Stormlord, and it's not actually as difficult as that. So really, should we not be holding this up as a bit more of a game that has lots going for it? And of course, you've got then you've got all the back history with Core and everything else. So yeah, it's a good one to end on. Thank God, because after those 4 dog turds, at least this one's a lot better than any of them.
Yeah.
And it just shows you, we keep saying it, out of the 5 games we've played, one of them's good. That's about the average.
Yeah.
But that's, that's the nature of the way that the C64 is going. The pool of games is reducing, so we're now finding more good ones. Prior to this, we might have played 6 or 7 or 8 games. And one of them would be
good one. Yeah, 1 in 8, 1 in 5 seems a good
exactly.
ratio.
So, but that's and we know 20%. That there's a few more coming up. Exactly, that's a better statistic, and it's just unfortunate that we've got a few eggs in this basket, but dog eggs. But at least there's Rick Dangerous come along, and I quite liked its the thematics. I like that Indiana Jones. It laid into it. It didn't pretend to be anything else. What's not to like about that? It's good fun. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, there we go. That's Rick Dangerous. That's a good one to end on. There we go. So what have we looked at this week before we get into... we've got one crap vote, so we're going to have a look at that in a moment. But we have looked at 3D Pool, which just... No, it didn't work. Don't work. Super Scramble Simulator, overcomplicated.
Silly controls that made the game that could have been something rubbish.
Yeah. Deep Strike, just go back
Silly controls made a game that could have been something rubbish. No, it was just rubbish.
It's just rubbish. Arcade Flight Simulator.
Crap.
Just not very good. And finally, Rick Dangerous, which was very good.
Best of the bunch.
Best of the bunch by a country mile. Right, okay.
What's this? Some kind of boxing game.
I don't know. I just thought it looked rubbish. There's too much going on in that. I don't know who's written that on the belt, where it says the champ, but it looks like someone's carved it with a crayon.
Yeah, it's just its ethnicity is dubious on that. Everything about that shouts somebody. It's just all white guys boxing. Everything, even in the game, in the screenshots. Maybe not in that top one, but it's a little bit awkward. A bit smiley and a bit. All-American superhero champ, and his fists are massive.
They are massive, yeah. It's just, I thought the layout's confused. It's all over the place.
Boxes.
What's this skate of the art in the bottom?
What is that? Is that the game? Is that a game?
A crazy game for all skateboard fans. Yeah.
Out on Amiga. Okay, all right, okay. Software. It's just a bit all over the shop, isn't it? Somebody decided they were just going to put everything in boxes. I'll put it all in boxes. What does it matter? Put it in boxes.
And then just have a purple bar down the right-hand side for no reason.
I've seen that with the original Rocky theme tune for that as well. More than 1,300 frames of animation. That's way too many.
That's a lot. One or two
need that many. A booklet with the history and rules of boxing and a keyring. Wow, okay.
Hopefully the keyring is better than that belt. That belt is dreadful.
Apparently it says it's a smash gold medal in Germany. A great simulation. It's a beaut. It's a real winner. It's a great simulation.
I just didn't like it. I don't like the fact that punch is not right. What he's doing at the bottom.
No, you don't. You can't punch him to the solar plexus, and that wouldn't be his reaction.
Well, he's punching him in the face over his arm, which I get, but he's like that. You can't do that.
He's back fisting him as well, which is so he must have been. He's slapping him. He's like back fisting him with his boxing glove. Like, back, get back.
Also, as well, he's got the most perfectly fine parted hair for a boxer in the middle of a fight.
I can tell you what, this guy learned to draw hairstyles, didn't he? Because look at that, they're all perfect hairstyles. He clearly, his job before this was he did all of the drawings that you get in the front of those barber shops. When you see the photographs of all the haircuts they do, and the shaves that they do.
That's what he did. Who's this by anyway? Lionel Products.
And weirdly, if you notice the guy who stood at the top there he's in his vest. He's just boxing in his vest.
He's gone to proper Queensberry rules as well there.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's got his tape on his hands. See the tape there, but he hasn't got any gloves on.
No, he's doing the. I think that's the ball, the fast speedball box thing.
Oh, yeah. It's meant to be vigorously punching the speedball, yeah, but it doesn't look like it. It's just frozen.
No,
they've got a serious chin. They've all got very serious chins. They're very chiseled. Their faces are very chiseled. The guy can draw. He studied anatomy a little bit, but but obviously not actual boxing.
No, but why wouldn't you just have that image as the full page image?
And why does every character in the game look like Charles Bronson? And it's just a Charles Bronson boxing game. I don't want to box, but it says, look, it's just Bronson's. Even the referee looks like a mini Bronson. It's Charles Bronson's boxing simulator.
Is it the sequel to The Mechanic? The Champ?
It is, yeah. It's The Champ. There is a boxing. There's a boxing movie called The Champ, isn't there? Where he's
it's John
famously
Boyd, isn't it?
really sad. Yeah, sad.
Yeah, John Boyd. There we go. There's just the one. There'll be more. Let's go to some charts. Let's have some chart action. This is from Commodore User, as per normally. New entry at number 10 is Army Moves from Alternatives, obviously a budget re-release. A new entry from Virgin, Silkworm. Okay. Down to number 8 from number 5 is Emily Hughes' International Soccer. Down to number 7 is SAS Combat.
Right.
Codemasters. A new entry, new budget entry from Hit Squad, Daley Thompson's Decathlon at number 6.
The Waggle is back.
Up to number 5 is League Challenge from Atlantis. No idea.
Sound good.
Budget re-release of 1942 from Encore at number 4.
Okay.
Postman Pat is at number 3. New entry at number 3 from Alternative.
That's hilarious.
Have we seen that?
What? No,
it's not reviewed in Zap. Down to number 2 is RoboCop.
Wow. Okay.
And I don't understand this. In at number 1, a new entry, because it's a budget re-release, is Enduro Racer.
It won't be there for long.
The game that we called the worst game of that year, I think.
Yeah, well, honestly, because it's £2, it's like, I don't know, people are mad or short memories or desperate. How weird is it that we got RoboCop and Postman Pat in the same chart? I mean, that's weird.
It is.
Just those two being in the same charts. If Batman was in there as well, Rambo's in there somewhere, no doubt. And that's hilarious. Who would have thought Postman Pat was charting? That would be a pub quiz question, wouldn't it? In what chart would you find Postman Pat, RoboCop,
and some Shanghai Warriors. At number 11, let's just do the rest. At number 11, new entry Gauntlet 2, budget re-release. Roadrunners budget re-release at number 12. Arcade Flight Simulator in at number 13.
Goodness me.
Football Manager 2 is hanging around still up to number 14 from Addictive.
Never leaves the chart.
Rambo is in there, new entry from Hit Squad at number 15. Shanghai Warriors.
We've got that coming up, I think, haven't we?
I think so. And 16 from Players. Down to number 17 is Run the Gauntlet. Operation Wolf is a new entry at number 18. I'm sure that's a re-entry, surely. Super Cycles down to 19. And Speedball down to number 20.
Okay. The charts are weird in this magazine. They're weird.
They know what they
are.
are.
They are, I suppose.
What have we got next week? Over the next couple of weeks, we move into September. We've got Blue Thunder. I think that's an old budget re-release. I'm not expecting good things.
Good. No.
We won't be looking at Curse of the Azure Bonds. That's back into the strategy section. Nor will we be looking at Daley Thompson's Decathlon, the budget re-release. Demons Winter. We may be looking at that. Dominator.
Yeah, we'll probably be looking at that.
Gemini Wings.
Okay, God knows what that's going to be like.
Hostages.
Oh, I don't remember that being very good.
I don't remember this either. Inner Space. Oh, do you reckon that's based? Do you reckon we're going to get to play a digital Dennis Quaid?
Digital Dennis? I don't know. It could be.
DigiDen.
Got to be some sort about the right time, isn't it?
It is. Laser Squad. I think. Where's that on?
Did we play that one? I thought we'd done Laser Squad.
Have we? We may have done. License to Kill is here, so we're going to get to play that.
Okay.
The Bond game. We're going to get to be James Bond for a bit. Rainbow Islands. We're going to look at that.
Okay.
That's good. I think there's one missing here because I'm pretty sure. Let me see if it's still here. Rainbow Islands, we've got that. Rally Cross Simulator. It's going to be bloody Codemasters in it.
Yep. Gremlin.
Well, it's in the budget. It's in the budget section because it's next to Rambo. Same page as Rambo. Red Heat.
Oh gosh.
Running Man.
Oh no.
So we've got. I think I've all put these together. I think I put License to Kill, Running Man, and Red Heat all together for a movie triple bill.
Ooh.
What else we got? Tom and Jerry has finally made its way in as well.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Some good ones in there, maybe. It'd be interesting to see what Dominator. I think I remember Dominator being all right.
You reckon?
I vaguely remember it, and I vaguely remember Hostages, but I think more on the Amiga. I'm starting to get more in the games I recognise for the Amiga than I did the C64 now. I'm heading in that direction now.
Yeah, I think, it's getting a bit like, what the hell are these? There is one missing, actually, that's not on there that we are looking at as well, and that's a New Zealand story.
Okay, how come that's not in there?
May have come in late. May come in late, I guess, after this one was released.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
But,
in this magazine, is it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Yes. Issue 53, September. Definitely in there, so we've got that one to look forward to as well. I don't know why it's not in there. So we've actually got 12 games to look at next week. Next one. But Red Heat, Running Man, License to Kill, Triple Bill.
Gosh. That'll be exciting or not.
I've also got Inner Space that week as well, so...
okay.
Yeah, I could have done Blue Thunder and Tom and Jerry for an entire movie-linked episode if I really wanted to, but I haven't done that. Anyway, so that's what we've got coming up for September. I know New Zealand Story and Rainbow Islands are quite thingy. Didn't think he'd do Rainbow Islands. Wasn't that a Braybrook thing?
I don't know. We'll have to find out when we go to look at it.
I thought it was. I think Grafgold did the conversion. I could be wrong, but it's definitely Grafgold.
Rainbow Islands?
Yeah, well, maybe not. I think he did the Amiga version.
Oh. Okay.
Because it's definitely developed by Grafgold. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there you go. So could be some interesting stuff there. We never know. We never know what these things are going to be like, but who knows? Do you remember anything about those Red Heat or Running Man?
No, nothing. I don't remember it being top half of his body through Red Heat, but that's all I remember.
Did you come up to animate his legs?
I don't think it's not going to be a very good. I remember there being a good loading screen to it, but it had a really weird version of Arnie's face. But we'll have to see. So I think Belushi and Schwarzenegger, his face looks really weird on the loading screen as I remember it, but vague memories.
Well, I look forward to seeing that.
I remember punching somebody in a sauna in that game, as I recall.
Oh dear. Is that a euphemism?
No, actually, this is what you do, but it could be.
It could very well be.
Those are strange times.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. So that was August. That was the month that was August 1989. Obviously, probably Citadel and Rick Dangerous are the two standouts, I think.
Yeah, by miles, yeah. Top and bottom, yeah.
Top and bottom. I think that's about it then. We got anything else you want to add for August?
No, I'm glad to see that we're getting, an uptick in the good games.
in the percentage of games that are good, it is going up.
The formula is changing, but I think they need to stop releasing. They've gone budget crazy now. It's the sort of last desperate acts of some of these nightmarish publishing houses. The weird relationships there are between Gremlin and US Gold and all these others, where they're all starting to just publish anything.
anything that they can publish now, and it's getting a bit sad and desperate. It's not the way you want the 64 to go out. Obviously, we all know that it's now heading towards its twilight in terms of the games at the time and the magazine's lifetime. But there's still life in there. There's still Citadel proved that by miles.
Yeah,
there's still, with the in the right hands. Rick Dangerous proves it. The machine is capable of good stuff if you do take your time with it. But far too many simulator games coming out for my liking, and I never realised actually until we did this podcast how many of those are bloody awful. And it turns out pretty much all of them.
Yeah, I think BMX Simulator and that Grand Prix one are probably the only two we've liked.
No. I mean, the next big thing for Gremlin really is on the Amiga, isn't it? That's where it starts to lift for them now. So the C64 is they're sort of seeing it off, I think.
Yeah, probably. All right, there we go. That's it. That's August done. We've only got 4 months left before we'll be looking at what will be the best game of the year. I'm wondering what that will be, but I have a sneaking suspicion unless something comes in.
There's going to be Project Firestar is going to be in there, I think, in that list. So sure,
I think so, probably.
What's going to win Homer's Doorbell Award? That's going to be a tricky one.
What's Homer's Doorbell Award again?
That's the annoying sound. That's the annoying music. The annoying music award is we've now called the Homer's Doorbell Award.
Well, Deep Strike is in there for that mishmash of. I mean, it had that music, but it's once you get with the sound effects, it's like a nightmare.
It is, but it's not terrible music. There's way worse than that. Way worse.
There is, but it's the combo.
Yeah, no, I get it, but it's way worse than that. That's annoying, but it's not as annoying as some of the things we've come across.
Anyway, there we go. I think we need to finish. As ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past. We will see you again next week, where we will kick off with September 1989. So see you then.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.